Chapter 470. Go to hell. The enraged Etion managed to reach the excavator Yuan Ko in the nick of time. In a fit of rage, she chopped off the excavator Yuan Ko's head. Gahan, there's still one excavator zombie left. It's less than a minute away from the building. Misaka Mikoto, who was observing from the rooftop, reported. Although there was only one excavator zombie left, that was all the Etion could do. There was still one excavator Yuan Ko left, and it was about 400 meters away from Etion. Even if Etion doubled her speed, she would not be able to stop the excavator Yuan Ko from getting close to the building. There's still 3 minutes left before the wings can completely solidify. Even if I wait for another minute, I'm still 2 minutes away. Gohan silently calculated the time in his mind. However, no matter how he calculated, he could not buy himself 2 minutes. Forget it, 3 minutes is more than enough. If I just hold on for a little longer, the parts that are glued together might be able to hold on. Gohan gritted his teeth and immediately ordered, Ms. Misaka, continue to keep an eye on the excavator zombie. Once it's close to the building, report to me immediately. Etion, clear all the Yuan Ko around you. Then quickly return to your sword. Thank you for your hard work. Gohan then ordered Etion through the sword mark. She could finally leave without being surrounded by the group of Yuan Ko. Etion let out a long sigh of relief. She took a sip of Dukong wine and then drew a perfect circle with the heavenly sword in her hand, clearing all the Yuan Ko around her. This created a short gap where Yuan Ko could not get close to her. Using this gap, Etion turned into a ray of light and flew to the rooftop. She returned to Gohan's control using the sword return method. It's getting closer. The zombie is less than 10 meters away from the building. It's going to attack the building soon. Misaka Mikoto, who was in charge of observing the situation, quickly reported to Gohan. All right, Ms. Misaka, get into the back seat of the hover bike. Quick! As soon as Gohan gave the order, Misaka Mikoto ran back to the hover bike. Just as she was about to get on the hover bike, someone picked her up and placed her on the back seat. Mr. Gohan, Misaka Mikoto was shocked. She was much closer to the hover bike than Gohan, but Gohan had returned to the hover bike at almost the same time as her. This proved that Gohan's movement speed was much faster than hers. Not good. The zombies are rushing towards us, Misaka Mikoto exclaimed. Without Gohan's obstruction at the top floor's entrance, the vitality silks gushed out of the building like a tidal wave from a broken dam. 9 blades of black heaven, sword rend. At that critical moment, Gohan could no longer hide his swordsmanship. He used one of the rare AoE swordsmanships from the 9 blades of black heaven. An explosive sword aura swept across the entire top floor like a shockwave. The ordinary zombies were like sand sculptures in front of the sword rend. They quickly melted and disintegrated into a pile of debris. The entire top floor was instantly cleared. Not a single Yuan Ko could be seen. Moreover, the door to the top floor was destroyed by the sword rend. Within a short period of time, the Yuan Ko would not be able to enter the top floor through the door. Ms. Misaka, hold on to me tightly. We're going to fly, Gohan said through gritted teeth. I'll hold on to you. Misaka Mikoto was stunned. She then exclaimed, but the electric current on my body will shock you. You won't be able to withstand it. It's fine. I knew this would happen. Gohan took off his outer clothes and revealed the black swimsuit underneath. Oh my god, Gohan had put on Misaka Mikoto's swimsuit. Only the wrists were cut open so that Gohan's hands could be seen. That way, as long as Gohan was wearing a swimsuit on the outside, no one would be able to tell that Gohan was wearing the swimsuit underneath. You're wearing my swimsuit. Misaka Mikoto blushed. She remembered that the two of them came out not long after she returned the swimsuit to Gohan. Gohan did not even have time to wash his clothes. In other words, Gohan had worn her original swimsuit. Misaka Mikoto recalled the water stains on his crotch area when she was reading her book. She felt terrible. In the past, Misaka Mikoto would have electrocuted this guy to death without a second thought. However, Misaka Mikoto was too ashamed to do such a thing. If she had not removed her swimsuit to avoid trouble, this would not have happened. All in all, it was Misaka Mikoto's fault. It was not Gohan's fault. Full speed ahead. Gohan did not know that Miss Makoto had so many thoughts running through her mind. He was not interested in it either. Gohan stepped on the hoverbike's electromagnetic valve to the very bottom and accelerated the hoverbike to its maximum speed. The maximum distance from the rooftop of the building was about 150 meters. Even if the hoverbike was a futuristic technology, it could only accelerate to 150 kilometers per hour at most. However, that speed was enough for the hoverbike to fly. When the excavator zombie downstairs slammed the excavator onto the load-bearing wall, the entire building could no longer withstand the force. It was instantly reduced to rubble, just like in a television drama. At this moment, a hoverbike with 2 wings jumped out from the edge of the building. According to the principles of aerodynamics, generally speaking, as long as there was a certain initial speed and the 2 wings were designed in accordance with the rules of aerodynamics, the hoverbike would be able to fly. Even if it could not fly actively like an airplane, it could still glide like a glider by relying on the high ground. At that time, the hoverbike that Gohan had modified was like a glider. Although it was very awkward to control, and its trajectory in the air was twisted like a headless fly, it was undeniable that the hoverbike was gliding in the air. Moreover, the hoverbike had a levitation function that allowed it to descend more slowly and glide further. I can finally see the monument. Misaka Makoto looked at the Martyrs' Monument at the foot of the mountain and let out a long sigh of relief. Based on their current altitude and speed, it should not be a problem for them to reach the monument safely. However, they did not know how good Gohan's landing technique was and whether he could land safely. "All right, Mr. Gohan, I wanted to ask you earlier. I remember that the hoverbike should be able to fly about 3 meters above the ground. Why didn't we just use the hoverbike to fly over? Why do we make it so troublesome?" Misaka Makoto asked in a puzzled manner. The hoverbike could fly 3 meters above the ground, and the zombies could not fly more than 2 meters above the ground. There was no problem at all. Even though the zombies are stupid, the Paragon behind them isn't. It's 3 meters high. With just a few boulders, we can fall from there. I don't want to damage the only means of transportation. We have to get back to Yuzhong City. Gohan said calmly. "All right, you always have a point." Misaka Makoto stuck out her tongue. She was bored to death as she sat in the sky and began to observe the situation around her. As she looked around, she discovered a big problem. "Mr. Gohan, our wings. There's something wrong with our wings," Misaka Makoto said as she pointed at the glued wings. Gohan looked down and saw that more than half of the glue had loosened. The entire wing was trembling. As expected, 3 minutes isn't enough. Gohan sighed. He knew that this was a hidden danger left behind by the lack of waiting time. Under the impact of the air, the glue that was not completely firm had lost its effectiveness. From the looks of it, it would not be long before the 2 glass wings completely fell off. "Ms. Misaka, we might have to make a hard landing later," Gohan said to Misaka Makoto, who was behind him. He then controlled the hoverbike to dive toward the monument. He tried his best to land near the monument. When they were about 100 meters above the monument, the hoverbike shook violently. The left wing was the first to fall, leaving only the right wing. For an airplane, it would be better to break both wings and to break only one. If both wings were broken at the same time, the airplane would still be able to control its descent. However, if only one wing was broken, the airplane would start spinning like a top due to the unequal airflow. This was even more fatal for Gohan's glider that did not have a shell. The hoverbike did not have a safety belt. If the hoverbike were to flip, Misaka Makoto would be the first to fall. Gohan made a prompt decision. He kept the hoverbike into his dimensional pocket while they were still in the air. The 2 of them were free falling from the sky. "Be careful." Gohan pulled Misaka Makoto into his arms and hugged her tightly with both his hands. He controlled the fall with his back facing downward so that his body would become a cushion for Misaka Makoto. Thud! Without any miracle, Gohan fell to the ground with Misaka Makoto in his arms. He fell from a height of 100 meters and hit the ground with his back on the ground. At that moment, Misaka Makoto could even hear the crisp sound of Gohan's bones breaking. Fortunately, He had the physical attributes of the two sword maidens, Do-yu and Etion. This was a situation that would have been impossible for an ordinary person to survive. However, for Gahan, it was just a simple bone fracture. Since Gahan could lift his head when he was falling, his head did not suffer much damage. In any case, Gahan had lost his ability to fight. With his spine broken, he could no longer fight. Fortunately, the previously densely packed Yuan Ko were now very sparse. When Gahan landed, no Yuan Ko attacked Gahan. This allowed Gahan to summon the heavenly sword and have it protect him and Misaka Mikoto. Gahan entered the medical pod. According to the medical pod, Gahan would need about 20 minutes to fully recover. It seemed like Etion needed to protect him for 20 minutes until Gahan came out of the medical pod. Chapter 471. When a medical pod's indicator light lit up, Gahan crawled out of the medical pod. Spinal injuries could not be treated while awake. Hence, Gahan was forced to sleep. When he woke up from his dream, the first thing he thought about was the battle outside. Perhaps Etion was fighting a tough battle to protect him. Hence, Gahan immediately jumped out of the medical pod. He planned to join the battle and share some of Etion's and Misaka Mikoto's burden. However, when Gahan jumped out of the medical pod, he was surprised to find out that everything was peaceful outside. Gahan, you're finally awake. Etion immediately jumped next to Gahan when she saw him coming out of the medical pod. She looked like she was concerned about her best friend, but in reality, she had placed her hand on Gahan's dimensional pocket. Quick, you still have some kvass left, right? Give it to me quickly. I've finished the 1,000 bottles of kvass you gave me last time. I'm going to die without kvass here. Gahan took out a bottle of kvass from his dimensional pocket and gave it to Etion. It was the few bottles left in his dimensional pocket. Gahan's dimensional pocket did not have any left. Of course, that was not the main point. The main point was, why did Etion have a time to drink? Is the battle over? Gahan scanned the surroundings. It was a beautiful scenery with verdant hills and limpid waters. There was no sign of Yuan Yin. Yuan Yin was killed by you guys. I'm curious too. Gulp. Etion gulped down a mouthful of kvass. This heroine is ready to shed blood for you. However, after waiting here for so long, I haven't seen a single Yuan Ko. It's as if Yuan Ko doesn't exist on this mountain. I can only wait here for you to finish your treatment. I'm so bored. Gahan looked at Misaka Mikoto curiously. Misaka Mikoto nodded, confirming Etion's statement. She then added, I went to check the surroundings just now and found out that it's the same as what we observed in Jinya District. These zombies didn't dare to take a step forward after Yuan Ko reached the foot of the mountain. It seems like the person controlling them also forbade them from getting close to the Rainflower Terrace. How could this be? Gahan's keen senses told him that there were many secrets hidden in the Rainflower Terrace district. The things here far exceeded his imagination. However, that was not within Gahan's concern. The most important thing right now was for Misaka Mikoto to heal herself and bring her back to Yuzhong City. He wanted to use Misaka Mikoto's U-level abilities to contribute to the protection of Yuzhong City. Ms. Misaka, no matter what happens to those Yuan Ko, let's hurry to the monument you mentioned. After so many hardships, we've finally reached this step, Gahan said to Misaka Mikoto as he put away the medical pod. Upon hearing Gahan's words, an unnatural awkwardness flashed across Misaka Mikoto's face. However, she did not say much and only nodded. The group then walked toward the Rainflower Terrace Martyrs Monument. Before the cataclysm, the Rainflower Terrace had been surrounded on all sides by the bustling city. Only this mountain range had evergreen trees and grass. No real estate developer had dared to have any ideas on the Rainflower Terrace. It didn't even need to think to know how precious this piece of land was. What urban oxygen lungs, what Nanjing's largest garden, what forest and life. This was a first-class forest park district. The price of the house could easily be a few thousand yuan more expensive than the surrounding areas. Instead of wasting this piece of land here, it would only earn less than a few million yuan in ticket sales every year. The reason for this was because of the Martyrs Monument. When the Communist Party founded the country, more than 100,000 communist believers, party members, and workers were killed by the reactionaries here. Every inch of land here was truly dyed red by the blood of the martyrs. Anyone who dared to touch this piece of land was simply courting death. As time passed after the apocalypse, the other areas of Nanjing were once again occupied by forests. This area, which was originally lush with trees, became even more lush. Most of the buildings were completely destroyed. Only the Martyrs' Monument at the highest point remained towering after 1,000 years. It was as if the souls of the martyrs were really guarding this place. The area where Guhan fell was not far from the monument. After walking for a few minutes, they arrived at the bottom of the monument. Guhan let out a sigh of relief when he saw this monument. He smiled at Misaka Mikoto. "Fortunately, I didn't disappoint you. Ms. Misaka, you can start treating your injuries now." "Thank you, Mr. Gahan, for your help." Misaka Mikoto bowed deeply at Gahan. "However, we might have to wait here for a while. The time to treat my injuries hasn't arrived yet." "Time?" Gahan was stunned. What time? He had never heard Misaka Mikoto mention it before. However, Gahan did not think too much about it. "No problem. How long do we have to wait? Is an hour enough? I can prepare some food for everyone." "An hour?" Misaka Mikoto looked slightly ashamed. "I'm really sorry. Looking at the weather, I'm afraid we'll have to wait for at least a few days." "A few days?" Guhan looked at Misaka Mikoto with an inexplicable gaze. "A few days? Are you kidding me? Yuzhong City might be done for in a few days." After a period of not-so-friendly communication, Gohan finally understood what Misaka Mikoto was hiding from him. The reason why Misaka Mikoto had to rush to the Rainflower Terrace to treat her injuries was not because of the elixirs or magical herbs in the Rainflower Terrace, but because of the lightning in the Rainflower Terrace. According to Misaka Mikoto, her injuries were caused by the destruction of the electromagnetic model in her body. She had to rebuild the electromagnetic model in her body. In order to rebuild the electromagnetic model, Misaka Mikoto could not rely on her own strength. She had to borrow the help of an external electric current. Moreover, it had to be an external electric current that was naturally generated in the universe. In this world, there was no external electric current that was purer than lightning. If it was just lightning, it could be found everywhere. There was no need for her to come all the way to the Rainflower Terrace. However, it was different when the external electric current was prefixed with the word spiritual. Spiritual lightning was not found everywhere. After all this time, Misaka Mikoto had only discovered one place where the lightning was spiritual, and that was the lightning in the Rainflower Terrace. Therefore, if Misaka Mikoto wanted to treat her injuries, she had to fulfill two conditions. First, she had to arrive at the Rainflower Terrace. Second, there had to be lightning near the Rainflower Terrace. Moreover, the lightning had to be naturally generated and not artificially generated. "Why didn't you tell me earlier?" After listening to Misaka Mikoto's explanation, Gahan did not feel good. One could even say that Gahan was a little angry. That was because naturally generated lightning was completely uncontrollable. It could be continuous lightning and thunder for a day, or it could be half a year without a single drop of rain. Was Gahan supposed to wait for Misaka Mikoto every day that there was no lightning? If Gahan had the time to waste here, did he have the time to do so in Yuzhong City? "If I told you, would you have sent me all the way here?" Misaka Mikoto looked apologetic once again. "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have lied to you about this. You could go back after you send me to Rainflower Terrace. Leave some food for me. I'll wait for the thunder at Rainflower Terrace." Who would have thought that Gahan, who had tricked Misaka Mikoto, would find out that he had been tricked as well? Moreover, he had been tricked from the beginning to the end. If it was someone else who heard the truth, even if they did not beat Misaka Mikoto up, they would immediately leave and never care about this scammer again. However, Gahan did not do that. Although Gahan was still very angry when he heard the news, he kept his cool. Since the truth could not be changed, he had to deal with it to the best of his ability. "Follow me back to Yuzhong City." Gohan sighed and made what he thought was the best decision. "I don't have time to wait for your lightning here, so you have to follow me back to Yuzhong City." "I won't go to Yuzhong City with you." Misaka Mikoto shook her head. "I'm worse than a cripple now. What's the use of me going to Yuzhong City? Of course it's useful. Gohan said in a deep voice, your freelancer friends probably don't know that you've successfully escaped. As long as you follow them to Yang Fortress, find your friends, and tell them that you're out of danger, they'll leave Yuan Ko and help Yuzhong City. That's enough. That's why you're helping me out of the kindness of your heart. You want to gain my friend's power. Misaka Makoto's words were full of bones. You're the one who caused this disaster, and the crisis of tens of millions of lives in Yuzhong City is also because of you. Don't you have to take responsibility? Gohan's tone became aggressive. Of course I'll take responsibility. It's precisely because of this that I have to use my own power to defeat Loki. I have to return to being a level 6 super electromagnetic gun and not be a cripple who will drag my friends into danger again. Do you understand? Misaka Makoto screamed. Misaka Makoto cried out. You know how dangerous the upcoming battle is. My friends have sacrificed a lot to save me. I can't let them get involved in such a dangerous situation. This is a creator's godhead. If we fail, even if we're LV6, we'll be annihilated on the spot. There's no way I'll let my friends get involved. What do you mean? Didn't we agree on this? I'll help you regain your strength, and you'll let your friends fight alongside Yuzhong City. What do you mean now? Are you going to go back on your word and let your friends abandon Yuzhong City? Gohan glared at Misaka Makoto as if he wanted to eat her alive. Mr. Gohan, please understand that my friends are just my friends. I don't have the right to decide their actions. I've never promised you that they'll join the battle, Misaka Makoto said, enunciating every word. Gohan recalled everything he had said to Misaka Makoto. Indeed, Misaka Makoto had never promised him anything like that. It was all Gohan's own speculation. Once Misaka Makoto's friends knew that Misaka Makoto was safe, they would be forced by Loki to join Yuzhong City's camp and take revenge on Loki. This was all in Gohan's head. Misaka Makoto had never promised him anything like that. Misaka Makoto felt guilty when she saw Gohan's speechless expression. At the end of the day, she was the one who lied to Gohan out of selfishness. She did not tell him the truth about the lightning, which led to the current situation. She was the source of all the mistakes. All right, I'll go back to Yuzhong City with you now. I swear that I'll use all my strength to make up for my mistake. I won't hesitate even if I have to give up my life. However, I won't drag my friends into this. I have no right to do so. Misaka Makoto said solemnly. Wait for your lightning here. Gohan waved his hand, and the heavenly sword returned to Gohan's hand. Gohan was filled with anger as he looked at the clear, cloudless sky. He suddenly felt that he had been tricked, not only by Misaka Makoto, but he was also tricked by the wretched heavenly sword that was secretly manipulating everything. The wretched heavens not only made humans suffer for 1,000 years, but his only home, Yuzhong City, was about to be destroyed. The battle that he had worked so hard for 2 whole days turned out to be a scam. Gohan did not know where to vent his anger. He could only point the heavenly sword in his hand at the sky and shouted, Wretched heavens, I, Gohan, will fight you to the death for what happened today. Thunderclap. Boom. It was as if the wretched heavenly sword was punishing Gohan for his blasphemy and provocation. Several lightning bolts suddenly struck down from the cloudless sky and struck Gohan's side. A 100-year-old tree next to Gohan was instantly turned into charcoal. Gohan was stunned when he saw this. He then sheathed the heavenly sword and turned around to face Misaka Makoto, who was equally confused. What are you waiting for? Hurry up and heal your wounds. As the saying went, a roar that shakes the heavens and startles the flowers in the rain. Thunder rolls across the ancient capital. Chapter 472. I'll need at least 12 bolts of lightning to complete the reconstruction of the electromagnetic model in my body. Misaka Makoto slowly sat on the ground and unbuttoned her clothes without hesitation. Misaka Makoto, who used to throw a tantrum when she was seen naked, probably felt guilty for deceiving Gohan. However, this time, she did not say anything and took off her clothes neatly. My body must be in full contact with the lightning in order to completely absorb the power of the lightning. Misaka Makoto explained. She hesitated for a while. I'm forced to do this. It's not a big deal. I understand. Gohan's expression was rather cold. His attitude was completely different from when he was with Misaka Makoto. To Gohan, protecting Misaka Makoto was really just a mission. There was nothing else in it. I'm sorry. I don't know what else to say other than sorry. I lied to you. Misaka Makoto let out a long sigh. I promise you that this time, I'll fight to the death for Yuzhong City. As long as I, Misaka Makoto, exist in this world, Yuzhong City will definitely exist in this world. I'll live and die with Yuzhong City. All right, I thank you too, Ms. Misaka. Gohan's expression softened a little, but it was still very cold. I also promise you that as long as I'm here, Yuanko won't be able to hurt you. Thank you. Misaka Makoto nodded. She then looked up at the sky that was filled with dark clouds. After staring at it for a while, her eyes suddenly lit up. Mr. Gohan, the lightning is coming. As the strongest electromagnetic superpower user, Misaka Makoto's ability to sense lightning was undeniable. Mr. Gohan, when the lightning strikes, I'll use all my concentration to control the lightning in my body. I'll leave everything outside of my body to you, Mr. Gohan. Misaka Makoto paused for a while before adding, if you encounter an opponent you can't defeat, Mr. Gohan, please leave this place decisively. This is my fate, and I'll accept it with a smile. Misaka Makoto then sat on the ground with her legs crossed. As soon as she finished her sentence, a golden lightning bolt struck down from the sky. Although the lightning bolt was 2 kilometers away from Misaka Makoto, it suddenly made a turn in the sky, as if it was attracted by something and landed on Misaka Makoto's body. Misaka Makoto's body is filled with electric currents. She's like a high-energy superconductor that can attract all the lightning within a few kilometers to her body, Gohan speculated as he saw the lightning strike Misaka Makoto's body. However, Gohan didn't know if his eyes were playing tricks on him, but he noticed that when the lightning fell on the sky above the Rainflower Terrace Monument, the whole sky trembled, as if something had been pierced. Normally, Misaka Makoto should have turned into a pile of charcoal after being struck by such a powerful lightning bolt. However, Misaka Makoto was an ultimate electromagnetic superpower user. Her foundation was also the foundation of a yang-level Yuanko. After the lightning strike, not only was Misaka Makoto's body not charred, but it also had a crystal-like texture. Some parts of her body were as perfect as a silicone doll. Not a single flaw could be seen, and it made people's hearts race. Oh no, the after effects of the 3 green lotus blades are here again. Gohan's lower body was swollen, and he looked like a Mongolian yurt. Gohan did not dare to look at Misaka Makoto anymore. At that moment, Misaka Makoto's naked body had a strong attraction that men could not resist. Roar! Roar! Just at this time, the zombies that were originally restrained outside the Rainflower Terrace suddenly became restless and began to let out terrifying beast-like howls one after another. It looks like the Yuan-Ko is finally going to attack. Seeing the zombies' actions, Gohan clearly knew that his leisurely time just now no longer existed. These zombies were going to attack the Rainflower Terrace. However, why are the Yuan-Ko only attacking now? Why didn't they attack when Gohan and the others entered the Rainflower Terrace? This doesn't make sense at all. Gohan could not figure it out. However, he had a feeling that everything had something to do with Misaka Makoto, who was behind him. When she started to heal herself, the Yuan-Ko became agitated and were ready to attack. Gohan looked at the surrounding terrain. It was a typical highland. On both sides were cliffs that were about 10 meters tall, and there was a steep slope at the front and back. This terrain was probably an extension of the buildings from before the apocalypse. The cliffs were supposed to be high concrete walls, and the 2 steep slopes were supposed to be a series of stairs. Therefore, Gohan's current defensive strategy was very simple. Gohan and Heavenly Reliance would each guard the entrance of a steep slope. Then, Doyu would be the mobile force and reserve force. This was the most typical defensive strategy. Fortunately, Misaka Makoto had entered the state of inner vision due to her healing. All her focus was on controlling the lightning that had entered her body, allowing them to rebuild the electromagnetic model in her body. Misaka Makoto had no energy to care about anything else other than her body. No matter what, this was the final moment of the mission. As long as Gahan was able to stop the zombies' attack, Yuzhong City would have another strong ally. Moreover, it would be a universe-level freedom who had the intention to repay Misaka Makoto with her own life. More importantly, although Misaka Makoto said that she would never let her friends be in danger because of her, when Misaka Makoto was in danger, would her friends stand by and do nothing? Therefore, as long as he could protect Misaka Makoto, Gohan believed that there was at least a 70% chance that Yuzhong City would have the support of 4 to 5 universe-level freedom. To Yuzhong City, it would be like a complete tonic. Of course, if he encountered an opponent that even Gohan felt he could not defeat, then Gohan would not fight to the death. As long as he had the green onion stone and the training formation, Gohan would have no problem protecting his own life. However, when that time came, Misaka Makoto might really die here. Oh well, if that's the case, then it's just like what she said, this is fate. Therefore, Gohan was fully prepared to protect Misaka Makoto. However, after waiting for a long time, the zombies did not attack. Although they were still restless and howling even louder, they did not attack the top of the mountain no matter what. It was like a play on stage. They looked fierce on stage, but they would not leave the stage no matter what. What are they doing? Are they trying to scare us? Ition was puzzled when he saw the scene. No, they're waiting. Gohan shook his head. He seemed to have figured out something, but he was still confused. They're waiting for an opportunity, but what is this opportunity? Boom! Another bolt of lightning fell from the sky and landed near the Rainflower Terrace. It was attracted by Misaka Makoto, who was sitting there, and entered her body. This time, Gohan paid close attention to every detail. As expected, just like the previous time, when the lightning got close to the Rainflower Terrace, the sky above the terrace shook. It seemed to shake even more violently than before. Gohan, they're moving. They're starting to move. At that time, Ition, who had been observing the bottom of the mountain, suddenly shouted. Gohan did not have time to think about the strange movement caused by the lightning and looked down. He saw the zombies that were hopping on the ground and not moving a moment ago, suddenly charging toward the top of the mountain at full speed. Ition, let's guard each side. According to their previous strategy, Ition blocked the entrance of the steep slope behind Misaka Makoto while Gohan threw the Doyu sword in his hand to free Guyun. He then instructed her to observe the cliffs on both sides to prevent the zombies from climbing up the cliffs. Come on, you useless zombies. This heroine will kill as many as you come. Ition waved her sword and taunted the zombies. Unfortunately, the zombies had no intelligence and could not understand Ition's words. In their eyes, Ition was no different from a lively monkey. With the zombie speed, it would take them about 5 minutes to walk from the foot of the mountain to the Rainflower Terrace Monument. After all, normal zombies did not move very fast. Moreover, the roads around the Rainflower Terrace were mostly mountain roads. For zombies with poor balance, it was very tiring to walk. However, after the zombies had walked for less than a minute, Gohan noticed that something was wrong with the zombies. The zombies' eyes, nostrils, and mouths. Wherever there was a hole, there was a black liquid flowing out. Moreover, as time passed, the speed of the black liquid flowing out increased. In the end, it was like a faucet that had been turned on to its maximum capacity. The black liquid gushed out crazily, and the zombies' bodies began to shrink. In the end, they turned into a deflated balloon and collapsed to the ground, turning into a horrifying corpse skin. At the same time, a dimensional vortex appeared and sucked in the corpse skin and the black liquid that flowed out. In less than 2 minutes, the zombies died before they could even touch Gohan's body. It was as if their bodies had been squeezed dry by a juicer. Gohan had never heard of such a method of death. What kind of secret was hidden in this cemetery of martyrs? Chapter 473. Gohan helplessly put down the Chinpin sword in his hand. He was prepared for a tough battle, but what the hell was going on? Yuan Ko just felt like that. I've seen something similar before. Ition, who was no longer on guard, walked back to Gohan's side and said slowly, I've seen something like this when I Ching and I were fighting against Celestial in Guangzhou. Celestial has a kind of void technology that can control the evil energy in the void in a certain area. As long as a non-void creature stays in this area, their life force will be slowly consumed by the void energy until they die. It looks like the effect here is similar to the void technology. As long as they stay in a certain area, the life force of these zombies will gradually disappear until they die. Is there such a detail in that battle? Gahan knew about Jatian's battle in Guangzhou. He heard that at that time, Celestial had sent a vanguard fleet led by an Archon into this world. They planned to turn this planet into Celestial's home. As a result, he encountered Shroud Heaven's sword spirit, who had just become a spirit sword wielder at that time. After a bitter battle, Shroud Heaven single-handedly destroyed the entire Star Spirit fleet. This battle made Shroud Heaven's name spread throughout the human world. From then on, humans knew that there was such a powerful character like Shroud Heaven in their camp. However, there were too few witnesses to the Battle of the Astrals. Later generations could only restore the scene of the battle based on some clues and a few words. There had never been any record of the Astrals using void energy in history. It's up to you whether you believe it or not. I'm just telling you that I suspect this area might be shrouded by an energy similar to void energy. However, this energy doesn't harm us humans or the Sword Mistress. At least, it doesn't harm us. However, to Yuan Ko, it's fatal. Etian concluded. No, you're wrong. Gohan shook his head. I'm afraid the energy here isn't targeting Yuan Ko. If that's the case, the first one to fall would be Misaka Mikoto, not these zombies. You mean that this energy is only effective against zombies, Yuan Ko? Etian asked. I don't know. Maybe it's only effective on zombies. Maybe it's effective on undead creatures. Or maybe it's effective on all dark creatures. I don't have enough data to refer to, so I can't make an accurate judgment. Gohan licked his lips. But one thing is for sure. It's a good thing for us. That's true. Maybe by drinking and singing here, we'll be able to protect this Billy successfully. Etian said optimistically. What did you call her? Beep, beep, beep. Gohan was stunned. He remembered that this name seemed to be the name of a large same-sex dating website before the apocalypse. Didn't I tell you? Etian blinked. Back then, Jatian and I fought together with this Billy. Jatian and I always called her Billy. Wait a minute. Why did I call her Billy? I can't remember. Hearing Etian's words, Gohan recalled that Misaka Mikoto did mention that she and Jatian had fought together before. That was why she could recognize the heavenly sword at first glance. Could it be that I Ching gave Misaka Mikoto the nickname Billy? Billy. Gohan repeated it a few times. He smiled as he recalled how Misaka Mikoto's body emitted sparks. That's quite an image. At the foot of the mountain, after the first wave of zombies had died, the remaining zombies immediately stopped in their tracks. They returned to their previous state of not daring to take another step forward. Looks like there's a will controlling these zombies. They've learned their lesson so quickly. Etian expressed his opinion. That's the most troublesome thing. An opponent who's learned their lesson is much stronger than an opponent who only has courage. As Gohan said this, he looked up at the sky. It could be seen that another bolt of lightning was brewing at this moment. As expected, 10 seconds later, the lightning bolt struck down from the dark clouds. This time, there was no need for Misaka Mikoto to attract the lightning bolt. The lightning bolt's target was the Rainflower Terrace. Under Gohan's attentive gaze, he clearly saw that when the lightning bolt was about 200 meters above the Rainflower Terrace, there was a strong arc-shaped fluctuation in the sky. It felt as if there was a transparent pot lid covering the Rainflower Terrace's head. The lightning bolt had pierced through the lid and caused the entire lid to vibrate. In other words, this Rainflower Terrace also had a personal shield. The lightning bolt had pierced through the personal shield of the Rainflower Terrace, thus triggering the fluctuation of the entire personal shield. Compared to the first lightning bolt, the fluctuation caused by the third lightning bolt was much stronger. If the personal shield was the same, it meant that the energy of the personal shield was in the process of weakening. Gohan, the zombies are moving again. They're on the move again. Under Etion's warning, Guhan discovered that the zombies that had just calmed down had once again started to climb towards the Rainflower Terrace monument. Just like last time, these zombies' ears, noses, mouths, and eyes started to have black liquid flowing out. But last time, they were squeezed dry after a minute and a half, turning into a stinky bag of skin. This time, these zombies advanced for a full 2.5 minutes before finally dying. What's going on? Why are these zombies able to last longer? Could it be that their strength has increased? Etion was a little worried. These zombies were only rat level, and it was already very difficult to deal with. If they were to increase to tiger level, it would be even more difficult to deal with. No, it's not that the zombie's strength has increased. It's that the layer of energy that's enveloping the Rainflower Terrace has weakened. Guhan lowered his head and looked around. He suddenly realized something and said, I understand now. It's the lightning bolt. It's the lightning bolt that weakened the energy here. When he thought about what happened earlier, part of the truth became clear at a glance. Under the attack of the lightning bolt, the personal shield of the Rainflower Terrace became weaker and weaker. Correspondingly, the zombies received less damage. That was why the zombies could last for 2.5 minutes from 1.5 minutes. It was not that their strength had increased. It was that the energy here had weakened. Etion, return to your position and prepare for battle. I'm guessing that if 2 more lightning bolts strike, we'll really have to fight. Very soon, Guhan's prophecy became reality. When the 4th and 5th lightning bolts struck Misaka Mikoto, the zombies were already in front of Guhan and Etion. However, by the time they reached them, they were already all skin and bones. Guhan did not even need to use any strength to chop off their necks with one slash of his sword. The real battle only started after the 7th lightning bolt was absorbed by Misaka Mikoto. When a lightning bolt struck, there was no longer a need to pay attention to the energy fluctuation of the layer of energy. The signs that it was about to collapse became more and more obvious. After the 7th lightning bolt, the zombies officially sounded the horn to attack. When these normal zombies charged toward Guhan, they were no different from the zombies that Guhan had slaughtered when he first arrived. Although he could still kill one with one slash of his sword, Guhan had to use 100% of his strength to fight this battle. However, the intensity of the battle was within Guhan's expectations. Previously, Guhan was able to kill his way out of the horde of zombies and was able to guard the entrance to the top floor. Naturally, it would not be a problem for him now. As long as Guhan stood there, he was confident that he would not let any normal zombies in. However, what worried Guhan the most was the 2 cliffs around them. If any zombies tried to break through from there, Guhan did not have the confidence to guard such a wide front. As the saying goes, what you fear will happen. When the 8th lightning bolt exploded and was absorbed into Misaka Mikoto's body, the gigantic excavator zombies once again appeared in Guhan's field of vision. They were more than 10 meters tall. Even if they were standing at the bottom of the cliff, their arms could easily attack Misaka Mikoto, who was on the monument's platform. What was more terrifying were the excavators in their hands. They only needed to use the excavators to knock on the cliff, and the entire cliff would collapse. It would then become a new entrance for the ordinary zombies to attack, just like Guhan's Heavenly Guard. Etion, how many mouthfuls of green plum wine do you have left? Seeing this, Guhan knew that it was time for Etion to attack. 2 mouthfuls left. Etion quickly gave an answer. Etion's ultimate skill, green plum wine, had a duration of 10 seconds and a cooldown of 30 seconds. Etion's wine gourd could store up to 5 mouthfuls of green plum wine. In other words, Etion could transform up to 5 times in a short period of time. Wait a minute. Something was not right. Etion had drunk a mouthful of green plum wine when she killed the excavator zombies, Yuan Ko. She should have 4 mouthfuls left. Why was there only 2 mouthfuls? Etion, where are the remaining 2 mouthfuls of green plum wine? Guhan immediately questioned. About that, Kvass ran out when you were healing me just now. This heroine drank 2 mouthfuls of green plum wine to satisfy her craving. Etion said righteously, What's wrong? This is this heroine's green plum wine. Can't this heroine drink it? Hearing Etion's answer, Gohan almost vomited blood. Such an important green plum wine could be said to be related to the success or failure of the entire battle. How could someone drink it as a drink to satisfy their craving? Chapter 474. This time, there were 15 excavator zombies that appeared on the Rainflower Terrace. They surrounded the terrace from 4 directions. If the Heavenly Sword still had 4 mouthfuls of green plum wine, then it would have been very easy to kill these Yuan Ko zombies. However, now that the Heavenly Sword only had 2 mouthfuls left, it had become an almost impossible task. No, it's not completely impossible. Gohan memorized the positions of these 15 Yuan Ko zombies in his mind. Then, he continuously deduced the positions of these 15 excavator zombies. Fortunately, these excavator zombies were still quite a distance away from the Rainflower Terrace. Gohan had a relatively long time to madly calculate in his mind. With such a high-intensity calculation going on in his mind, Gohan naturally could not defend against these zombies. Fortunately, Gohan had already arranged for Doyu to be his backup. When Gohan was deep in thought, she immediately took over Gohan's position. Although she was relatively short, she was very fast in killing these zombies. Doyu and Gohan's methods were different. Gohan and Heavenly Sword killed these zombies by chopping off their opponents' heads, but Doyu killed them by directly piercing their opponents' hearts and then turning their hearts into meat paste. In Gohan's mind, the positions of these zombies were like chess pieces on a chessboard. Gohan constantly connected 2 or a few of them, and then quickly rejected his own thoughts. At this time, Gohan's mind was like a tractor engine that had been driven to 180 kilometers per hour. It had already exceeded its limits and was emitting smoke everywhere. Just as it was about to explode, a light finally appeared. A light finally appeared, and the 15 chess pieces landed in an instant. Then, they were pierced by Gohan with 2 lines. It could be said to be perfect. Heavenly Sword, memorize these 2 lines for me, and remember the time of each point. Don't miss even 0.1 seconds. Gohan used the sword mark to force a large amount of information from his mind into Etion's mind. Etion's consciousness could not accept such a large amount of information in a short period of time. It was stuck on a spot for a long time before it recovered. Etion was like a baby that had been forcefully fed a big mouthful of rice. It was in his mouth for a long time before he finally swallowed it into his stomach. As she digested the information, she even forgot to swing her sword. Fortunately, Gohan took over the defense at the first moment, and then commanded Doyu to rush to the other side, taking over Etion's task of blocking the door, preventing the zombies from rushing in. You actually made the time accurate to 0.1 seconds. After Etion received the entire information, he started to complain. I've never seen a plan with such a strict limitation. That's because you have never met me. Gohan said dryly. If you can't do it, I'll go by myself. You decide. You want to provoke me with such a shallow method. Etion glared at Gohan. Gohan, today I'll let you witness this heroine's power. Well, the first sentence he said he would not be provoked, but in the next second he slapped his own mouth. Etion was indeed Etion. Other girls would not be able to learn these things. Thank you. Gohan chopped off the heads of the 3 zombies with 1 slash. Taking this opportunity, he bowed to Etion and said gratefully, Thank you, Etion, my best friend. I know that this plan has troubled you, but the only one who can help me now is you. TSK, why are your words so mushy? Etion trembled when she heard Gohan's words. However, her expression was obviously much better, and there was a faint smile on her face. The unhappiness from before had already disappeared. You're wise to trust this heroine. My best friend. For the first time, the word best friend came out of Etion's mouth. This was a signal that Etion had finally recognized Gohan. Who would have thought that Gohan's sweet words would bring such an unexpected surprise? Sure enough, some words were right. Women would never like a man who quietly worked for them, but a man who said sweet words to them all day long. If a man wasn't bad, women wouldn't like him. Etion, do it. As Gohan fought with the zombies, He stared at the traces of the excavator zombies. When the position of the nearest excavator zombie reached a certain point that Gahan was staring at, Gahan ordered Etion to do it within 0.01 seconds. Nay. Claw Yellow Lightning let out a neigh, and this world-famous horse instantly appeared under Etion's crotch. Etion, who was riding Claw Yellow Lightning in her hero form, clamped her legs on the horse's belly. Claw Yellow Lightning, just like its name, instantly turned into a golden lightning bolt, galloping toward its target, the excavator Yuan Ko. In the eyes of ordinary people, it was as if they only saw a flash of lightning, and then a huge excavator zombie instantly died. After killing the first excavator Yuan Ko, the lightning bolt didn't stop, but continued to charge towards the rest of the excavator zombies, passing by them. And every time it passed by an excavator zombie, that zombie directly fell and died on the spot, not even having the chance to struggle. 10 seconds passed in the blink of an eye, but in this short 10 seconds, 8 of the 15 excavator Yuan Ko had already died, returning to the dimensional whirlpool. This was the best slaughter route that Gahan had simulated in his mind. These excavator zombies weren't static things. Gahan had to accurately calculate the movement of each excavator zombie and calculate the position of the excavator zombies when Etion attacked, in order to achieve the magnificent feat of killing 8 excavator zombies in different positions within 10 seconds. This was extremely taxing on Guhan's brain. When Guhan washed his hair for the first time afterward, he washed out 1/20th of his hair. There was so much black hair that it almost blocked the drain in the bathroom. Although Guhan's calculations played a very key role, as the direct executor, Etion's entire set of movements were completed so quickly, accurately, and flawlessly. It must be known that this battle plan of Gahan's was an abnormal plan that was accurate to 0.1 seconds, and only a sword mistress with superb swordsmanship like Etion could complete this. If it was another sword mistress, Gahan dared to say that under the spiritual sword, other than the 3-foot sword, no sword mistress could do this. When the 10 seconds were over, Etion, who had killed the 8th excavator zombie, returned to her original appearance, and then fell into the group of zombies, instantly becoming the target of the zombies. Etion, you can now rest for half a minute. Wait for my order. The other 7 are no match for you. Gahan's order came one after another, but it was also a good order. After Etion completed the miracle of killing 8 zombies in 10 seconds, her stamina had indeed been greatly depleted. In order to replenish her stamina, she did not even swing her sword to kill the zombies that surrounded her. She directly used her personal shield to block the zombies' attacks, and simply sat on the ground to rest. She was using the energy of her personal shield in exchange for stamina recovery. From this, one could see how much stamina Etion had consumed in the 10 seconds of killing 8 zombies. On the other hand, Gahan did not have it easy as well. He had to constantly keep an eye on the remaining 7 excavator zombies to see if they were moving at the speed and position that he had predicted. These excavator zombies were very obedient, and they really started moving according to Gahan's plan. If there were no changes, everything would fall into Gahan's calculations. However, no matter how meticulous Gahan was, he still missed something. During the 30 seconds when Etion was resting and waiting for the cooldown of her green plum wine skill, suddenly, there was another thunderbolt in the sky. The 9th thunderbolt fell from the sky and landed on Misaka Mikoto's body. The thing that Gahan missed out on in his calculations was none other than this sudden 9th thunderbolt. Due to the 9th thunderbolt, the energy field that enveloped the Rainflower Terrace once again suffered an extreme loss. The zombies that were close to Gahan also had their combat power increased by a lot. However, what Gahan miscalculated was not the combat power of these normal zombies, nor was it the combat power of the remaining 7 excavator zombies. Instead, it was their movement speed. The direct result of the suppression of the energy field was that the speed of the 7 excavator zombies increased by about 20%. This was absolutely fatal to Gahan's plan. Gahan's previous plan still failed. Gahan had to come up with a new battle plan in the remaining 10 seconds or so. Moreover, Gahan could not overuse his brain. Otherwise, he would not be able to stop the zombies' attack in front of him. Currently, there was no Doyu as a backup team to help him accept the defense mission. He had to focus on the problem of the battle plan. No, I can't think of anything. These excavator Yuan Ko speed is too fast. It's impossible to get rid of the remaining 7 within 10 seconds. Gohan's brain was not a supercomputer. Gohan wasted more than half of his time, but he still could not achieve his goal. When Gohan confirmed this point, Etion's ultimate skill could be used again. As for the excavator Yuan Ko that was closest to the Rainflower Terrace Monument, it was only 10 seconds away. Etion, I'll leave everything to you. Gohan suddenly said to Etion, there's no other plan now. Use your maximum speed and kill all these zombies from far near. Hee, you really know how to shift the blame. Hearing that Gohan was obviously going all out, Etion could only smile bitterly. What else could he do? I'll try my best. Etion leaped up high and temporarily jumped out of the encirclement of zombies. Then he gulped down some green plum wine and returned to his valiant and heroic appearance. Gohan, do you know how terrifying Heavenly Sword is when it's at full strength? Even I don't know how terrifying it is. Etion took a deep breath. The golden lightning on the battlefield flashed once again. Every time it flashed, an excavator Yuan Ko would die. Chapter 475. Captain, we're about to enter the Maiden mountain range. There are a lot of Yuan Ko around here. I'm afraid we'll have to enter stealth mode. A team of 7 white-haired men hid in the forest. From their position, they could see no less than 100 Yuan Ko roaming around. This team of 7 was the scouting team formed by the man-made sword mistress, sky-piercing swords. Sky-piercing swords weren't very strong in battle, but they had the ability to travel through the void, which only immortal sword wielders could have. They also had the stealth ability of the sword mistress. Just think about it. A person capable of short-distance teleportation and invisibility stacked together would be a natural-born scout. This was also why Shifeng had chosen Sky-piercing sword to form a scouting party. After all, only they could enter and exit the dark forest alive. But even though they had such a suitable scouting ability, they had suffered the greatest loss since their founding in the last mission. Not only had their core leader, the team leader, died there, but the rest of the team members had also lost an average of more than 30 years of lifespan. They had turned from young, fresh meats into white-haired uncles. It could be said that half of their lives had been lost in that battle. This was their most precious thing, but they still felt no regrets. Today, after receiving the mission that Sword Immortal Bystock claimed was to save the entire Yuzhong city, they once again set out without stopping. Listen up, we only have one mission, and that is to find out what Yuan Ko is doing in the Maiden mountain range. Especially if we discover any signs of Yuan Ko mining, we must find out what they are mining. Remember, our mission is only to gather information. We are not allowed to have any conflict with Yuan Ko, nor are we allowed to do anything else. We cannot expose our whereabouts. Do you understand? The former vice captain, who is now the captain, said to his team members. The team members nodded vigorously, indicating that they would definitely follow the orders. Very good. Everyone hold your swords. The team leader gave the order and took the lead in gripping his sky-piercing sword in his hand. The rest of the team members followed suit and gripped their swords in unison. However, upon closer inspection, one could see that most of their palms were trembling slightly. This represented the fear in their hearts. Even though they didn't fear death to come here, Zhu Wudao made it clear to them before they left. There might be more than 20 Meteor Realm Yuan Ko and 4 or 5 Universe Realm Yuan Ko in the Miling Mountain Range. If they didn't handle this mission well, it might be the last mission of their lives. The desolate grade Yuan Ko, the father of the gods, Zeus, once said, "Be it in this world or that world, humans are incomprehensible creatures. Even if their hearts are filled with fear, they will never lose that bit of light. If we want to defeat the humans in the end, we must defeat that last bit of light. Unfortunately, after 500 years, I still haven't found a way to destroy that bit of light. The current scouting team was the best portrayal of Zeus' words. Even though their hearts were filled with fear and they knew that they wouldn't be able to return because of the existence of that bit of light, their footsteps were fearless. Everyone, listen to me. This time, we will definitely return safely. The team leader's voice was calm and full of power. This time, Sword Immortal Baiju is hiding in the void and is watching us. As long as we complete the mission, he will immediately use the Void Hand to pull us into the void and return to Yuzhong City. I guarantee that this time, everyone will return safely. The team leader's words were like good medicine. In an instant, all the team members looked much better and their wrists were no longer trembling. The team leader was right. This time, with Sword Immortal Baiju secretly protecting them, they would definitely be able to return safely to Yuzhong City. Sigh, this team leader must have never watched television dramas, movies, or anime. He didn't know that he had raised such a huge flag for his team members. Is this really our Miling Mountain range? The recon party, who were in stealth mode, looked at the scene before them in shock and anger. Although part of the Miling Mountain range had been turned into bear mines due to human exploitation, the majority of the Miling Mountain range still maintained its original beautiful forest. However, at this time, the Miling Mountain range had become a scorched land. All the trees were gone and shattered rocks were scattered everywhere. The originally red land had also turned black. It was as if this place had become hell on earth. There were all kinds of Yuan Ko walking around the team. Most of these Yuan Ko were magical beasts like Yuan Ko. Occasionally, there would be some Yuan Ko in human form, such as vampires and succubi like Yuan Ko. In short, these Yuan Ko were almost all Yuan Ko from the Western Magical Beast Camp. There wasn't a single Eastern Yuan Ko. The scouting team had to carefully avoid these Yuan Ko. They couldn't have the slightest contact with them, otherwise their invisibility would be immediately broken. Although the invisibility ability of the Sky Piercer could last for a long time, there was a limit. They absolutely couldn't have the slightest contact with any of the Yuan Ko. Even if it was just a touch of their clothes, their invisibility would immediately be broken. In this area that was densely packed with Yuan silhouettes, only death would await him if he were to reveal himself. Team leader, look over there. Those are the statues of the 7 heroes of Miling. Suddenly, a team member pointed at several broken stone statues. Anyone in Yuzhong City could recognize at a glance that these 7 statues were the 7 heroes of Plum Ridge who had sacrificed their lives for humanity during the war against Medusa and turned into stone statues. They had been the heroes and idols of Yuzhong City for hundreds of years. In these hundreds of years, they had been worshipped by generations of Yuzhong people. It could be said that they had become part of Yuzhong City's heritage and culture. Not too long ago, when these team members had just become sword bearers, they had also come here to offer their offerings and respect to these heroic spirits. However, such an important thing in their hearts had now been turned into a pile of rubble, carelessly tossed here. Damn it, these Yuan Ko! A team member clenched his fist, but immediately another hand was placed on top of his fist. Idiot, listen to me. As a scout, we need to stay calm. Don't harm your teammates. The team leader said dryly. This emotional team member seemed to have been doused with a basin of cold water, and he immediately calmed down. I'm sorry, team leader. I was too impulsive. Don't worry. In the future, we, the people of Yuzhong, will definitely repay this hatred. The team leader patted his shoulder, and the team set off once again, heading deeper into the Miling Mountain Range. The Miling Mountain Range was extremely vast. Just the 3 main mining areas occupied an area of tens of thousands of square kilometers. It was almost impossible for this small scout team to search the entire Miling Mountain Range in a short period of time. Logically speaking, the scouts should choose the routes that were less populated and not easily discovered by Yuan Ko. However, after a short period of consideration, the team leader decided to do the opposite. He took the initiative to lead the team to places with more Yuan Ko. His reason was very simple. The more Yuan Ko there were, the more heavily guarded the place was. That was where Yuan Ko was doing bad things. Only by taking the initiative to move forward and explore those places could they complete the task given to them by their superiors and find out whether Yuan-ko were mining or not. This team leader's idea wasn't bad. This was indeed a method that could quickly complete the investigation, but at the same time, the danger would increase exponentially. They were hiding among so many Yuan Li in their invisible state. If they accidentally came into contact with them, they would be completely exposed. Just now, one of the team members had stepped on a pile of feces and slipped, almost crashing into the body of a bull-eyed demon spider behind him. If it wasn't for the team leader's quick reflexes pulling his body, he might have already been finished. Thanks to this team member's lesson, the rest of the team members began to pay attention to their feet as they moved forward, hoping that they would not step on feces. But the problem was that because a large number of Yuan-ko were gathered here, there was feces everywhere in the Miling mountain range. It was a very difficult task to pass through here without getting their shoes wet. After cautiously walking for a while, the team finally found a place where a large number of Yuan-ko were gathered. They quietly crept forward and saw a huge hole in the ground that was about 50 meters wide. "I know this place. Isn't this the Luo Jiaping mine?" One of the team members exclaimed. When he was an ancient sword wielder, he had stayed in this mine for a whole year. He was very familiar with this place. As long as he saw the surrounding stones, he would be able to recognize this place. The Luo Jiaping mineral vein is a yellow, rich mineral vein. The team leader closed his eyes and thought for a while. Then he suddenly opened them. "All of you wait here. I'll go to the side of the hole and see what they're doing." "Let me do it, team leader. You can command us here." "Let me do it, team leader. The team can't do without you." A few of the team members said, hoping that they could accept the task of investigating the hole. "All of you shut up. Do you have the ability to pass through those Yuan-ko?" The team leader snorted. The closer they got to the hole, the denser the Yuan-ko became. Without outstanding dodging skills and a flexible body, it was impossible to pass through these Yuan-ko. Chapter 476. In the end, the team leader took on the responsibility of investigating from a close distance. This was because he was the slimmest in the entire team and had the fastest reflexes. He was able to avoid the densely packed Yuan-ko. In fact, we won't describe how this great team leader got close to the hole. We only need to know that he spent a lot of effort and experienced a lot of danger to reach his destination. What a deep hole! The team leader looked down the hole, but couldn't see where the bottom of the hole was. He could only see darkness and the rustling sound of air flowing through the hole. "No, I have to figure out how deep this hole is at least." The team leader looked around in alarm and found that Yuan-ko wasn't looking at him. So he secretly pushed a piece of gravel beside him into the hole. Based on the sound of the gravel falling, he could roughly estimate the depth of the hole. However, what the team leader didn't expect was that after more than 10 seconds, he still didn't hear a single echo. There were only two possibilities for this result. 1, the stone hadn't reached the bottom yet. 2, the stone had reached the bottom, but because it was too deep, the team leader couldn't hear the stone at all. No matter which reason it was, this hole was at least 1 kilometer deep. Only such a depth could isolate the echo of a stone falling to the ground. What a deep hole! What are they digging? While the team leader was thinking about this question, the entire hole began to shake violently. The team leader could hear a strange, sharp hissing sound coming from the depths of the hole. Something is coming out of this hole. This thought popped up in the team leader's mind. Then, he began to quickly retreat, wanted to leave the hole. However, it was too late. A long snake-like creature that was 30 to 40 meters thick rushed out of the hole. Its body was at least 500 meters long, and it wriggled for more than 10 meters before completely leaving the hole. The team leader was so scared that he didn't dare to move at all. He recognized the origin of this Yuan-ko. It was called the giant platinum earthworm, a dragon-level Yuan-ko. The giant platinum earthworm was a powerful Yuan-ko in the Western Magical Beast Camp. Although it was classified as a dragon tier, its true combat strength was at the level of a nether tier. Fortunately, The giant platinum earthworm was one of the few yuanwees that didn't know how to attack. No matter how many times humans provoked it, it wouldn't attack them. It would only try its best to run for its life. Mud was like water to fish to them. They could move very quickly underground and easily avoid humans who couldn't even dig a hole for them. The giant platinum earthworm was a natural digger. It was able to dig a dozen or so kilometers underground. They lived in the underground caves. The number of giant platinum earthworms was very small. Humans had confirmed that there were no more than 10 giant platinum earthworms in existence. They rarely appeared in front of the world. Who would have thought that Rocky would bring them here? It seems like what Sword Immortal Baiju said is true. The purpose of these Yuan-ko occupying the Miling Mountain range is to find something at the foot of the mountain. Otherwise, these Yuan-ko would not have brought the giant platinum earthworm, which has never fought with humans here. The team leader thought silently. The team leader thought to himself. At this moment, the giant platinum earthworm's body began to tremble at a high speed. Then, soil began to fall from the sky like rain. Soon, a small hill was piled up around his body. So this giant platinum earthworm ran out to bring out the soil underground. Otherwise, it could have dug a few hundred kilometers underground in one go. There was no need for it to come out of the pit at all. Awoo! A beast let out a roar. The Yuan-ko demonic beast beside the team leader unwillingly gathered around the hill of soil. They began to rummage through the soil that the giant platinum earthworm had brought out. Dimensional crystal ores were continuously dug out from the soil. Then, these ores were swallowed by a cloud-swallowing beast. The cloud-swallowing beast was a huge and very voracious demonic beast in the West. It was said that there was a dimensional space in its stomach. It could swallow all the humans in a city in one go and then spit them out. The team leader had heard that the cloud-swallowing beast was often used as a large transportation tool in the West. The cloud-swallowing beast could swallow things that were more than 10 times its size. It was the best transportation tool. The team leader silently lay on the ground and carefully observed the situation around him. Soon, the Yuan-ko that had swarmed up found all the dimensional crystal ores in the soil. After the cloud-swallowing beast swallowed all of the ores into its stomach, it took slow steps and began to advance deeper into the Miling Mountain range. The giant platinum earthworm burrowed back into the pit and began to dig again. The team leader had already roughly remembered the situation here in his heart. Then, he carefully returned to his team members along the original path. Let's go and chase this cloud-swallowing beast. I want to see where these cloud-swallowing beasts are going. Under the command of the team leader, the entire team followed behind the slow cloud-swallowing beast step by step. After really following behind the cloud-swallowing beast, the team discovered that this Yuan-ko's speed was not slow. Don't be fooled by its slow footsteps. The team had to jog to keep up with it. In a short 15 minutes, the cloud-swallowing beast arrived at its destination, a dilapidated camp ruins. This is Luoting Camp, an abandoned camp of us humans, a team member whispered. In fact, there was no need for him to speak. The rest of the team members had been in the Miling Mountain range for a period of time. They were very familiar with Luoting Camp. This is our territory. Seeing those damn Yuan-ko's wanton activities in the former territory of humans, several team members angrily clenched their fists. But they quickly put down their fists. They had learned to control their emotions. Let's go in. Yuan-ko, especially the magical beast Yuan-ko, did not have any sense of defense and vigilance like humans. There were no Yuan-ko guards at the entrance of the camp. The team followed the cloud-swallowing beast and directly entered the camp. Hey, team leader, look over there. After following the cloud-swallowing beast for a while, a team member suddenly raised his hand in surprise. The direction of his finger was pointing at a tall machine. This is a stone crusher. Why is it still in operation? The team leader was also surprised. He actually saw that the stone crusher left here by the humans because they did not have time to transport it away was still in operation. There is constantly white, fog-like steam coming out of the chimney of the stone crusher. Pushed by the steam, The stone crusher constantly waved its hammer up and down, looking like it was working in full swing. Come on, let's go take a look. The team leader led his team to sneak near the stone crusher. This should be the stone crusher of the Hung Mountain Sword Sect. The courtyard of the Hung Mountain Sword Sect was originally built very orderly, and all kinds of defensive buildings were also available. As long as there were 20 sword bearers here, they could defend 10 times the strength of a few people. However, Yuan Ko did not care about these defensive buildings, and there was no Yuan Ko guarding the courtyard. Just like the city gate, the team easily entered the courtyard. These bastards. When they saw the situation in the courtyard, several team members could not help but curse. Even the team leader's mouth was closed, and he almost cursed too. The saber-toothed tiger Yuan, least standing around the team, also heard this sound. They crawled up from the ground and constantly let out low growls. Their eyes constantly scanned the surroundings, trying to find the source of the sound. Unfortunately, they didn't see anything, so they could only pretend that their ears had malfunctioned and lay back down. The team leader did not say anything, but with tears in his eyes, he firmly held his brother's hands and used his own strength to comfort them. So what was it that made the usually calm team leader unable to control his emotions? Because the person in charge of this machine was not Yuan Ko, but a group of humans in disheveled clothes. No one knew where these humans were captured by Yuan Ko. They had no clothes on them, and they stood naked in front of the stone crusher. Their bodies were full of bloody scratches from wild beasts. Because their hands were exposed to the high temperature of the stone crusher without protection, they had already become charred black, and yellow body fluid constantly leaked out of the wounds. Yuan Ko usually killed humans they met, and rarely kept captives. If they did, they would strip off all the clothes of the captives, because they seemed to know that not wearing clothes was the greatest humiliation to humans, and they enjoyed humiliating humans. These human captives all had stiff expressions, and there was no spirit in their eyes. They had already lost their yearning for life, and all that was left was the instinct of a machine. Suddenly, a human captive staggered and fell to the ground, probably due to excessive blood loss and lack of physical strength. He struggled, but could not get up no matter what. Whoa! The two saber-toothed tigers seemed to be waiting for this moment. They immediately pounced forward, biting one of the human's legs and stomach respectively. Then, they bit down with their upper and lower jaws, forcibly tearing out a large piece of bloody flesh from the human's body. They chewed randomly and directly swallowed it into their stomachs. They looked very satisfied, as if it was a rare and delicious snack. The saber-toothed tiger's actions were a signal. The other beasts around Yuan Ko immediately swarmed forward and dragged out all the intestines, heart, and livers from the wailing human stomach. In less than a minute, a few magical beasts Yuan Ko had eaten a human alive into their stomachs, leaving only a head with its eyes wide open, staring blankly into the distance, which happened to be where the scout team was hiding. Chapter 477. I'm going to kill these beasts. One of the scouts could not accept the fact that his compatriots were being eaten by Yuan Ko in front of him. In his excitement, he wanted to rush up and kill these Yuan Ko. These saber-toothed tigers looked very powerful, but they were only tiger-class Yuan Ko. It was not a problem for a sword wielder to deal with them. Stop! Are you trying to get us killed? The captain grabbed his teammate's hand, which was about to draw his sword. Keep your body useful. We will take revenge with our own hands in the future. The team member froze in the position of drawing his sword for a long time. In the end, he put his sword back and turned around. He did not want to see this human tragedy. He could escape, but the captain could not. Although he was also very sad, the captain still stared at what was happening in front of him. He saw the cloud-swallowing beast come to the field and spit out a small mountain of dimensional crystal ores. Under the drive of the other Yuan Ko, the human captives could only put the dimensional crystal ores into the shredder and take out the dimensional crystals inside. All of this seemed easy to explain. Yuan Ko had enslaved humans to mine the dimensional crystal ores and obtain the dimensional crystals inside. But in fact, the The Yuan Ko just looked at the dimensional crystals that were broken out of the shredder and threw them on the ground. Even if there was a marquise among them, the Yuan Ko would throw them away like they were old shoes. This was not surprising. According to human intelligence, the dimensional crystals were completely useless to Yuan Ko. They could not absorb the sword essence in the dimensional crystals, so naturally, they could not use the power contained in them. It was also because of this that the captain felt a little strange. He didn't know why these Yuan silhouettes were mining these dimensional crystals. Gu Wudao did not tell the scouting team the truth, so the team naturally did not know that Yuan Ko had used the creation god's personality to destroy Yuzhong City in order to find the king species dimensional crystal in the Miling mountain range. Zhu Wudao didn't dare to make this news public. Otherwise, the entire Yuzhong City would be in chaos if word of this got out. Casually speaking, the dimensional crystals mined from the back of the crusher had already formed a 2-meter-tall mound. There were about 1 million dimensional crystals, which was a huge fortune in the human world. It would not be a problem to exchange for tens of millions of hero coins. This was a huge fortune for any sword wielder. Brothers, these dimensional crystals originally belonged to us humans. Everyone, go and use some so that it can be passed on to your descendants in the future. Even these heroes who walked on a tightrope for the future of mankind couldn't help but be tempted when they saw this wealth. Under the leader's lead, they each took some of the dimensional crystals from the pile. However, the leader was not blinded by greed. He was afraid that if the number of crystals decreased too much, it would arouse Yuan Ko's suspicion. So he forcefully restrained the scouts from taking a portion of the dimensional crystals without arousing Yuan Ko's suspicion. Indeed, Yuan Ko did not notice this, but a human did. His murky eyes moved, and his mouth opened slightly as if he wanted to say something. However, when he saw that the surroundings were filled with demonic beasts, he closed his mouth. Let's go. We still have a lot of places to explore. During that time, 2 or 3 humans lost their value due to exhaustion and were eaten as snacks by the saber-toothed tigers. The scouting party felt that if they stayed any longer, everyone would go crazy. Therefore, they quickly recorded the situation of the stone-crushing machine. After that, the captain led his party and planned to leave the campsite where Yuan Zhong gathered. However, when they approached the gate of the camp, they suddenly found that 2 more cloud-swallowing beasts appeared at the city gate one after another. They came from the opposite direction of the cloud-swallowing beast that they had followed before. Didn't this mean that Yuan Ko was not only mining that one mineral vein, but they were mining at least 3 mineral veins at the same time? Why? Since these Yuan Ko are disdainful of the dimensional crystals, why are they mining these, or is it 3 places at the same time? The leader couldn't understand the reason behind this no matter what. After busying themselves for a whole day, the sky had already darkened. The scouting team followed the moving cloud devourers and found a total of 6 mining locations. Under the operation of these Yuan silks, the efficiency of the entire May Mountain mine was actually much higher than when it was under the control of humans. According to the statistics of this scouting team, around 100,000 tons of ores were mined every day, which was 10 times the efficiency of a human's mining. The Yuan Huans seemed to occupy the entire Meiling mountain range in order to mine these ores and then use them to crush them with the stone crusher. Apart from this, the Yuan Huans didn't do anything else in the Meiling mountain range. It was as if their main purpose was to obtain these dimensional crystal ores, but they were so disdainful of the dimensional crystals contained in the ores. Leader, we have figured out the situation of the entire Miling mountain range. We can go back, a team member suggested. The leader nodded. Indeed, the situation had been figured out, and it was time to go. Okay, let's retreat. Since this time it was so smooth, and Yuan Ko didn't discover our traces, then there's no need to trouble the chairman to tear through the void to save us. All of us will carefully return along the original path and complete this mission perfectly. Yes, yes. All the team members let out a sigh of relief when they heard their captain's words. There was nothing better than being able to complete the mission perfectly. However, Accidents often happened when people relaxed. When this reconnaissance team was about to leave, they suddenly saw a group of soldiers in bright armor escorting a group of humans towards the direction of Luo Ting's camp. Leader, they are. A team member gritted his teeth, but he couldn't finish the second half of the sentence. Yes, these compatriots should be going to the stone crusher to be slaves. The leader was indifferent at this time. He didn't have the ability to save these compatriots, and he didn't have the right to exchange the lives of his team members for the survival of these humans. Even if he had to sacrifice himself, he had to save others. That was bullsh**. Leader, that person seems to be. Just as the leader was about to order his team members to leave, someone stretched out his hand and pointed at one of the bound humans, stuttering. Seems to be what? Do you know him? The leader was straightforward. I know him. There's no mistake. He is the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit. The team member finally finished his sentence. I once went on a mission with the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit. I can't be wrong. He is the sword spirit of our Yuzhong city, the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit. Unexpectedly, the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit who had led Gohan to Chanyang Mountain had appeared here as a captive. No one knew what kind of pain he had gone through to become like this. Eagle Cat Sword Spirit. Eagle Cat Sword Spirit. The leader kept repeating this name. He was in a dilemma. He didn't know if he should act and save the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit. If it was an ordinary human, even if it was a sword holder below the famed sword level, the leader wouldn't be in such a dilemma. He knew how to weigh the pros and cons. These people didn't know that their scouting team was in danger. However, the one that needed to be saved now was the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit. A spirit sword level power, even if it cost the lives of the entire scouting team, would still be a worthwhile trade. The prerequisite was that he could bring the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit back to a safe place. Leader, should we save him? Hearing that this person was actually a spirit sword level sword holder, all the team members began to hesitate. They also understood that a spirit sword level sword holder was much more precious than themselves. Leader, let's go save the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit. We have a chance. A team member took the initiative to suggest. Yes, leader, there aren't many Yuan Ko around here. If we can eliminate the Yuan Ko that is being escorted in a short period of time, and then ask Mr. President to tear open the void and pull us back, we will be safe. Leader, the success rate of this plan is still very high. Please give the order. Leader, our lives are nothing. If the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit can be safe, even if we all die, it will be worth it. The team members all expressed their opinions. Unexpectedly, all of them chose to give up on returning home safely. They chose to save the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit, even if it meant sacrificing their own lives. The whole team's hope was instantly placed on the leader. He hesitated for a while, but finally clenched his teeth. All right, then I'll listen to everyone. Save the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit. Yes, yes, all the team members said in unison. They all rubbed their palms together, ready to take action. However, the leader changed the topic and pulled one of the team members out. Wang Ba, don't join the rescue mission. Why? Wang Ba was stunned. Leader, are you looking down on me, Wang Ba? No, I won't look down on my brother. The leader patted Wang Ba's shoulder. Listen, we don't know if the rescue of the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit will be successful. That's why I have to send someone to act alone. He has to pass the information on the Mei Ling mountain range to the president. That person is you, Wang Ba. Go back the way you came and don't care about anything else. Go straight back to Yuzhong City and pass the information to the president. Do you understand? Why me? Wang Ba panted. Leader, let the other brothers go. I want to be with everyone. I don't want to act alone. Why you? The leader tapped on Wang Ba's personal terminal. Your grandmother has already lost 3 sons and 4 grandsons. You're her last hope. For your grandmother, you can't die. Get lost. You must return to Yuzhong City. Otherwise, we will never forgive you, dead or alive. The captain kicked Wang Ba's butt. Wang Ba endured the kick and slapped himself in the face. Then, he gave the captain a 90-degree bow and ran down the mountain as fast as he could. That kid got lucky. The leader looked in the direction of Yuzhong City. He was also his mother's last son. Chapter 478. Lord Eaglecat, we are from Yuzhong City's investigation team. We will kill these Yuan Co escorts later. Please cooperate with us. The scout captain walked to the side of the naked Eaglecat sword spirit in the crowd and whispered into his ear. The Eaglecat's expression did not change. It still had a dull and hopeless expression, as if it did not hear what the leader of the investigation team said. If the leader did not notice the Eaglecat's eyelids suddenly blinking 3 times, he would have thought that the Eaglecat's hearing had been destroyed by these Yuan Co. The leader understood and began to arrange for his team members to prepare to rescue the Eaglecat. The team escorting the Eaglecat was made up of 12 Yuan Co. 10 of them were ancient Greek Templars, while the other 2 were ancient Greek Templars. The Templars were Ghost Yuan Co., while the Templars were Soul Yuan Co. They were all at the same level as the sword wielders of the investigation team. Logically speaking, it shouldn't be too difficult for a team of 7 swordbearers to defeat 12 Yuan Shun of the same level. However, the problem was that the sky-piercing sword were known for their stealth and jumping abilities. Their fighting abilities were very weak, and they were no match for Yuan Co of the same level. Moreover, there were still other Yuan Co wandering around. Once the battle started, these Yuan Co would definitely swarm in. By then, the sky-piercing swords would not only have to face 12 Yuan Co, but hundreds or even thousands of Yuan Co. They would definitely die a horrible death. Therefore, after careful consideration, the team leader decided to focus his forces and kill the 2 Templar warriors guarding the Eaglecat sword spirit. Once the Eaglecat sword spirit was rescued, he would immediately summon the power of Sword Immortal by Stallion to rescue them from the void. And so, the 2 Greek Templars who were standing beside the Eaglecat blade spirit welcomed the last moments of their lives. In the blink of an eye, 6 to 7 sword maidens appeared in front of them and stabbed their swords into the gaps of their armor. After the first round of ambush, the 2 Greek Templars' eyes bulged out and angrily pulled out their great swords to retaliate against their opponents. After a series of clashes, the 2 Greek Templars died and the dimensional vortex appeared. From this, it could be seen how weak the sky-piercing sword ladies were. Under normal circumstances, when faced with a surprise attack from 3 or 4 sword ladies of the same level, a mere Ghost Realm Yuan Co would definitely die on the spot. But in reality, they only managed to hold on for a few seconds. It was only when the Sword Maiden's second round of attacks that they managed to kill the 2 Templars. It was clear that the Sword Maiden's attack power was insufficient. Hurry up and release the binding of the Eaglecat sword spirit. After the Sword Maidens, the other Sword Maidens also jumped out and rushed to the Eaglecat sword spirit's side, trying to break the binding on the Eaglecat sword spirit. The Eaglecat sword spirit was bound by a long iron chain. It even had the symbol of Yuzhong City on it. It seemed that these were the materials that Yuan Co had found from the abandoned items in the Mei Ling mountain range. These seemed to be the encirclement chains of the camp, made to defend against Yuan Co's. They were mixed with some dimensional crystal stone powder, making them stronger than normal chains. Who would have thought that these things that were originally used to defend against Yuan Co's attacks would end up being used by Yuan Co to bind the humans? Sir, save us. Sir, save us. Sir, we are all from the Yuyang fortress. Please save us. Please save us. Seeing the sudden appearance of the human sword maidens, the humans who were bound by the Eaglecat sword spirit started to plead with them. Captain, you see, one of the team members couldn't bear to see his own compatriots pleading with him. Save as many as you can. The captain glared at his team member. The rest of the Templars are already here. Organize a defense. After 2 of the Templars were killed, the rest of the Templars immediately rushed over. The Sword Maidens of the scouting team immediately went up to block the Templars' attack. However, as the rest of the Templars joined the battle, the pressure that the Sword Maidens had to face also increased, and they were gradually suppressed. How is it? Can you break this chain? The captain asked anxiously. Unexpectedly, when they were trying to break the binding of the Eaglecat sword spirit, they encountered a huge problem. These chains, which they usually didn't care about, had become a difficult problem to deal with. They couldn't break it all. At this time, The Saber Greatsword Maidens were defending against the Templar warriors. They could only use their ancient Saber Greatsword Maidens to try and break the chains. However, the quality of the chains was too good. The ancient Saber Greatsword Maidens were made of the same material as the chains. So, when the ancient Saber Greatsword Maidens slashed at the chains, they only created sparks and scratches. There was no other effect. At this time, the captain's heart suddenly surged with hatred for the iron chain manufacturer. Can't you learn from other companies and embezzle a little bit of the dimensional crystals mixed in to make some fake and inferior products? Why do they have to make the quality so good? Captain, are you done yet? Our sword maidens can't hold on for much longer, a team member said anxiously. When the remaining 8 Templars and 2 Templars gathered together to attack the 7 tiny sky-piercing swords, the situation instantly became precarious. Under the attack of the Yuan Yan, the sword ladies kept retreating. They were about to retreat to the side of the sky-piercing swords and were completely surrounded by the sword ladies. Damn it, this chain can't be broken at all. The captain madly slashed at the chains. Although he could see a small gap under his brute force, it was only a small gap. If he wanted to break the chains, it would probably take at least an hour. But the problem was, where did this team get an hour? They probably didn't even have 3 minutes. Somewhere further away, the rest of the Yuan Ko's were already rushing over. At that time, the team would have to face a tidal wave of attacks from Yuan Ko's. They would probably be torn to pieces by Yuan Ko in an instant. No, we can't delay any longer. You cut the chains, I'll send a message to the chairman. I hope that the chairman can save the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit. The team leader loosened the chains in his hands and took out a small, square-shaped stone from his dimensional pocket. He closed his eyes and immersed his consciousness into the stone. This stone was a void stone that Sword Immortal by Kolo had specially created. It could send his consciousness into the void and communicate with another void stone that was compatible with it. Chairman, are you there? Chairman. The captain frantically poured his consciousness into the void stone. I'm here. What made the captain happy was that he quickly received a response from Sword Immortal Baiju. Sky-piercing sword team, how's your current situation? Zhu Wudao asked. Chairman, the investigation mission has been completed. However, we're now surrounded by Yuan Ko's. We hope that the chairman can save us. The captain quickly said, All right, I understand. You guys must hold on for 1 more minute. I need time to cut open the void. Jinny could cut open the void anywhere he wanted. However, Sword Immortals could not. Depending on the distance, he needed a certain amount of time to cut open the void nearby. Yes, the captain cut off communication with Zhu Wudao and shouted to his teammates, Comrades, sword ladies, let's hold on for 1 more minute. After 1 minute, the chairman will come to save us. Humans were not afraid of despair, but they were afraid of not seeing a sliver of hope. When they heard that they could survive as long as they held on for 1 more minute, everyone erupted with a huge amount of strength and forcefully commanded their sword ladies to resist the attacks of the Templar warriors. There were no accidents or delays. A minute later, a void door opened at the location of the void stone. As long as the team passed through this door, they would be able to return to Zhu Wudao's side successfully and escape this disaster. It was not a problem for the members of the team to escape, but what about the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit? At that moment, the chains on the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit's hands were still firm. There were no signs of them being cut. Captain, what should we do? The team member in charge of cutting the chains asked anxiously. Humans had to put everything on their bodies into the void gate. Only then could they leave through the void gate. The chains bound the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit's hands and extended for hundreds of meters. Either the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit cut the chains, or it would have to bring all the chains and the humans bound to it to enter the void gate. However, both options seemed to be impossible at this moment, so the captain made a prompt decision to make the best choice. Forget it. If we can't cut the chains, we'll retreat, the captain said without hesitation. He then turned his head to look at the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit and cupped his fists. I'm sorry, Sir Eagle Cat. We're useless and can't save you. It's fine if I'm alone, but I can't let my brothers die here. Please forgive us, sir." After saying this, the captain began to order his team members to retreat through the void door in an orderly manner. They had thought that they could still save the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit's life. They did not expect that they would end up being cut by a high-quality chain. This was something that they had never expected. "Give it to me." Suddenly, the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit, who had been weak and silent all this time, finally spoke. "Comrade, give me the sword in your hand." "My sword?" The swordsman beside the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit was stunned. "Give it to him." The captain seemed to understand something and immediately said, "Here you go, sir." The Eagle Cat Sword Spirit took the ancient sword Maiden's body from the swordsman and took a deep breath. He then waved his sword and slashed at the chains twice. The chains that had caused the void-piercing sword team so much trouble were instantly cut. These two slashes seemed to have used up all of the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit's strength. He collapsed onto the swordsman beside him. Chapter 479. The Sword Maiden was just an ordinary sword in the hands of a wielder who wasn't its master. But this sword didn't stop the wielder from using his own power. The Eagle Cat Sword Spirit was, after all, a spirit sword level sword wielder. His sword essence was as high as hundreds of thousands of quarks. Even if it was an ordinary iron, in his hands he could still cut through copper and iron, let alone a man-made ancient sword lady. However, the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit had suffered a lot and was already an arrow at the end of its flight. Cutting the iron chain was the last of its strength, so it collapsed on top of them. Quickly helped the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit into the Void Gate. Seeing that the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit was tired, the captain quickly ordered his team members to help the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit into the Void Gate. Then, his team members covered each other as they entered the Void Gate one by one. But the captain did not expect that this action would cause a commotion. "Sir, don't forget us." The other captives panicked when they saw the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit enter. Could it be that these sword bearers were not going to save them? Could it be that they were going to stay here and wait for death? "Sir, my family is rich, millions of RMB. Sir, please save me." A fat man quickly said, "Sir, I have a daughter. She's as beautiful as a flower, Yuzhong's #1 beauty. Sir, please save me. I'll let my daughter be your personal maid." Another man said, looking at his ugly face, who knew what his daughter looked like, "Sir, I have twin daughters. I'll give both of them to you. Sir, please take me with you." This was a woman. She was so skinny that she looked like she was only skin and bones. It was as if there were two dry bags hanging in front of her chest. Countless captives begged, wanting to use their most precious things in exchange for a chance to leave this place. The captain swore to the heavens that even if there was a 1/10 of a chance, he would think of a way to save these people. But now he was really powerless. "Let's go." The captain closed his eyes and jumped into the Void Gate. He did not dare to look at the captives. He was afraid that he would not be able to harden his heart. When Yuan Ko and the others saw that all the human sword bearers had entered the Void Gate, they immediately stopped in place and did not move forward. The Void Gate was equivalent to the absolute territory of the Creator. Once they stepped into the Void Gate, they would most likely be immediately killed by the Creator. "Pah!" The captain slapped himself hard in the face and shouted, "Chairman, we're all here. Close the door." Inside the Void Gate, there was no need to use void stones. As long as one spoke loudly, the person who opened the Void Gate would be able to hear them. "Let's go in together. We've already been abandoned once in Yiyang City. This time, we have to rely on ourselves to fight for our lives." A captive yelled, dragging the chains on his body, wanting to climb into the void. "That's right. Why can they live while we have to die? Let's charge in together and live together." With someone taking the lead, driven by their desire to live, the captives all wanted to crawl into the Void Gate. On the other hand, the Yuan Ko turned a deaf ear to this. They did not attack the captives who wanted to escape. Instead, they watched as the captives struggled as if they were watching a show. It seemed like there was a high level and high intelligence Yuan Ko nearby. He knew very well what it meant for these captives with chains to enter the Void Gate. As mentioned before, the Void Gate could only take away individuals who were absolutely independent. If there were chains left outside the Void Gate, then the Void Gate would not be able to take away the humans inside. If it dragged on for too long, the power of the Sword Immortal would be exhausted or destroyed by the universe level Yuan Ko. Then, the humans inside the gate would return to their original position. Captain, what should we do? Should we save them? Within the Void Gate, a team member said hesitantly. Right now, there were already people who had crawled into the Void Gate. As long as they cut off the chains on their bodies, they would be able to save this human's life. Right now, there were only two options in front of the captain. One was to find a way to cut off the chains on these people who had crawled in, and the other was to push them out. The first option was undoubtedly the one that the captain wanted to make the most. However, when he looked at the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit, it had already fainted. Obviously, he could not count on the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit's power to cut off the chains. What else do you guys have left outside? I can already feel the power of the universe level Yuan Ko. He's rushing over here. He's about to forcefully destroy my Void Gate. Hurry and throw that thing out. Sword Immortal Bastock's voice sounded from the Void Gate. The universe level Yuanwees were rushing over. Once the universe level Yuanwees stayed here, they could easily destroy this Void Gate, since they also had control over the power of the Void. Time didn't allow the team leader to delay any longer. Everyone, follow me. Push these people out, or else no one will live. After the captain finished speaking, he was the first to rush up. He grabbed the clothes of a person who had crawled in and threw him out. But, Captain, what's the difference between us and killing people? A team member couldn't bear to see these humans being pushed out and couldn't help but say, either we live or we die together. If you don't have the heart to do it, then jump out yourself. I won't stop you. The captain roared angrily, and this team member, who was acting like a saint, immediately swallowed his words. What are you all standing here for? Do you all want to die in the hands of Yuan Ko? Push them out, the captain ordered again. Only then did all the team members come to a sudden realization. They all rushed up and pushed these humans, who had spent so much effort to crawl out, back into the endless abyss outside. I curse you, you bastard. You will die a horrible death. No, no. Push me down. Save me. I won't let you go. I'll haunt you even if I die. Bastard, mother of Asterisker, you scum with a human's face but a beast's heart. Sooner or later, you will all die without a burial place. These people who were pushed out let out the most vicious curse in their lives. They had finally seen the hope of survival, but they had returned to the abyss of death. They couldn't help but curse angrily. This was human nature. I'm sorry. Your curse, Song sure, will take it. If you have the ability, you can come and find me for revenge. I'll return my life to you. Song sure, who was also the captain of the reconnaissance team, said in his heart as he threw the last captive out. At the same time, the Void Gate quickly closed. With a flash of light, the entire Mei Ling Mountain returned to its tranquility. Don't these humans flaunt their honor and morality? Why would they leave their own kind in the lurch? This is too interesting. On a mountain peak opposite the Void Gate, two people were watching everything that happened with great interest. One of them was a handsome man who looked like a deity from the heavens. He was a deity in the first place. And the other was his daughter, a woman whose left half of her face was as beautiful as the moon in the lake, and the right half of her face was rotten and hideous, with vicious maggots crawling all over it. This handsome man was the Western evil god, Loki, who planned and launched the whole attack. Next to him was his daughter, the god of death, Hela. If humans really have these things, why would they keep talking about them and keep mentioning them? Loki's eyes were full of wisdom, as if he had seen through everything. Humans have always been the most hypocritical creatures. This is also something we can use. My dear daughter, Hela, let your subordinates go to the group of captives just now. After experiencing the good show just now, among these stubborn captives, there must be some who are willing to work for us. Identify them and give them a little better treatment than the other captives. Loki said with a smile, there's no need to trouble father. As long as my little babies scare them and fill their stomachs with a few people, they will work for us. Hela said with disdain, no, my dear daughter. Subordinates like this are not people who are willing to be dogs for you. What we need are dogs who are willing to serve us. Those that are thrown out by humans are such dogs. Do you understand? Loki patted Gila's hair that was as dry as rotten snakeskin. As you wish, my father. Gila nodded and arranged for her subordinates to do these things. But father, are you just going to let these human sword-bearers go? You could have kept them here. Gila continued to ask. Why should I keep them? Loki's face was full of smiles. They are the pawns of my next plan. I can't wait for them to leave here safely. But they saved the sword-bearer that I spent so much effort to catch. Gila said. At the same time, the smile on the beautiful left side of her face became even brighter. Whenever Gila was angry, the beautiful half of her face would give the brightest smile. When she was happy, the rotten half of her face would become even uglier. The sword-bearer that you caught is already dead. Loki touched the rotten half of his daughter's face and kissed it without feeling disgusted. My dear daughter, I have already let Audiobook control that human. He is the most important rat *T that I have embedded in the human race. I don't want to hear that stupid woman's name, my dear father. When we are together, can you tell other women to go away? Gila said with some intoxication. Of course, as you wish, my dear daughter. Tonight, father will accompany you well. You will not be lonely anymore. Loki held his daughter's hand and slowly disappeared above the mountains. Chapter 480. It's the 11th lightning bolt. Gohan's arms began to tremble uncontrollably as he looked at the endless horde of zombies surrounding the Rainflower Terrace. He had been fighting to protect Misaka Mikoto for 4 whole hours. In those 4 hours, Gohan did not move from his current position even once. He kept slashing and slashing repeatedly. Even though Gohan's physical strength had been strengthened by 2 sword maidens and Gohan still had more than 1,000 quarks of sword essence in his body was still on the verge of collapsing. Gohan was not like Etion. She had Doyu to take turns with her and had time to rest. On the other hand, Gohan had no choice but to continue fighting on his own. At this moment, his wrists felt as if they were filled with lead that weighed tens of kilograms. Every time he lifted his wrists, it was a huge torture. If you don't understand what kind of pain this is, then try to lift your textbook flat. You can't put the book down in the middle. It doesn't have to be very heavy. Just a language textbook will do. You guys don't have to lift them for 4 hours either. 20 minutes is enough. That way you guys can roughly understand how much torture Gohan was in. However, even though he was in such pain, Gohan did not slow down his killing speed. That was because he knew that he could not collapse. If he did, all his hard work over the past few days would come to an end. At one point, Gohan thought that he did not have to guard Misaka Mikoto for such a long time. The first to the 10th lightning bolt entered Misaka Mikoto's body was less than an hour apart. However, for the 11th lightning bolt, Gohan had to wait for more than 3 hours. During those 3 hours, although there were lightning bolts falling from the sky, they were very far away from the Rainflower Terrace. No matter what, they did not land near the Rainflower Terrace. Helplessly, Gohan could only fight for 4 hours before the 11th lightning bolt landed. However, as the 11th lightning bolt landed, Gohan noticed that the energy field that enveloped the entire Rainflower Terrace had completely shattered. Just now, he saw with his naked eye that the entire space had instantly become like a shattered glass, densely packed with cracks. It was a very bad thing, because when the energy field completely shattered, the entire ground began to tremble. Gohan saw a building in the distance suddenly explode as if something had burst it. Amidst the dust and ashes of the building, an octopus-like monster gradually revealed itself. The giant octopus monster was at least 200 meters tall and 200 meters wide. It had 8 tentacles around it. Although Gohan did not know how long the tentacles were, he was certain that it was very easy for the octopus monster to attack Gohan with its tentacles. At the same time, the body of the giant octopus was also densely packed with hundreds of small volcanic craters. From these volcanic craters, ordinary zombies were continuously climbing out. In the center of the giant octopus was the largest volcanic crater. From this volcanic crater, the zombies that were crawling out were huge excavators. Seeing this scene and the giant octopus, Gohan's heart couldn't help but think of a word: zombie mother. So all the zombies here were created by this giant octopus. It's like the queen bee of a beehive. Could it be that it can control the movements of the entire zombie group? Gohan muttered to himself. He finally figured out the origin of these zombies and the master behind them. But this was not good news, because Gohan could not think of any way to deal with this powerful giant octopus zombie mother. Judging from the power of this giant octopus, it was at least another level Yuan Ko that was equivalent to an ordinary spirit sword level swordsman. It was even very likely that it was second only to an immortal sword level swordsman, equivalent to a top spirit sword level swordsman. Such a Yuan Ko was definitely in existence that Gohan could not deal with. Gohan could only pray that this giant octopus was not interested in dealing with him, but this was obviously impossible. The first thing this giant octopus did after appearing was to stretch its tentacles, and then extended one of them in front of Gohan. Stop! Gohan heard a buzzing sound that seemed to be talking inside a jar. The tone of the voice was strange, and he couldn't even tell whether it was male or female. But it was obvious that this voice should be the voice of this giant octopus, because after the word stop, those ordinary zombies that were still attacking stopped and did not take another step forward. Gohan finally had a chance to rest. Unfortunately, Gohan did not dare to rest. He still maintained a state of high vigilance, staring at the tentacle in front of him. No one knew if this tentacle would suddenly attack him. Human, my zombies have never had any conflicts with you humans, and they have never left this small area. Why did you break into my territory and kill my descendants? The giant octopus or zombie mother said in a buzzing voice. It sounded like it was an innocent mother. You're wrong. The one who has always wanted to have a conflict is you. We are just here to replenish some thunder and lightning and defend here. Have you ever seen us take the initiative to attack your zombies? Although Gohan's tone was a bit cold, he still explained the situation. He also emphasized that he was only defending and had no intention of attacking the zombies. From a certain point of view, Gohan had already admitted that he was afraid. If it was me, I would also be afraid. Facing a meteor stage Yuan Ko, being afraid is the smartest thing to do. Those who didn't fear would have already become a pile of bones, or maybe not even a bone would be left. How can I allow others to sleep beside my bed? You want to break into my territory, so naturally you have to face my attacks. The giant octopus's words were very calm, and every word was spoken at the same time. It sounded like the voice of an automatic reading software. Moreover, its words did not contain any emotions. Even if you just looked at it, you could feel the emotions in it, but when Gohan heard it, he could not feel a trace of it. Get out of here! Suddenly, the giant octopus's words changed, and then the entire zombie horde was in an uproar. With Gohan as the center, a 1-meter-wide path actually opened up. Looking at it with a naked eye, this path extended to the end of the zombie horde. As long as they passed through this path, Gohan and the others could keep moving forward until they were out of the zombie horde's territory. Leave here, the giant octopus repeated. I will let you live. Leave here immediately. What you said is true. Gohan smiled. If we were halfway through and you came to kill us, wouldn't we be dead? I never lie. The giant octopus still maintained its calm tone. Human, you have to understand a truth. Only corpses will not lie to you. This giant octopus's words were very reasonable, and Gohan actually had no way to refute it. To be honest, Gohan had a vague feeling that this giant octopus was just like what he said. He wouldn't lie. If they did this, they might really be able to leave Nanjing unscathed. Unfortunately, Gohan's goal was still one step away. Gohan could not leave here immediately, but Gohan also did not want to have another conflict with this giant octopus. Okay, I believe you. Gohan nodded and tried to say, but we still have something to do. If we finish this, we will immediately leave here and will not stay. No, you must immediately leave here, or you will refuse my friendship. Was this giant octopus's friendship valuable? Anyway, Gohan could not see how valuable it was. If you refuse, then refuse. Gohan smiled coldly. I never thought that a corpse would have any friendship. You will pay a price for your recklessness, stupid human. You can go to hell. It seemed that the giant octopus's calm way of speaking finally attracted the emotional fluctuations of a representative point. After Gahan's words, the original negotiation was completely announced to be broken. After the negotiation was broken, the previously restored zombies once again launched an attack on Gahan. At the same time, the giant octopus's tentacle also joined in the siege. The giant octopus's tentacle was far above Gahan in terms of strength, speed, and other attributes. Gahan was only hit by the tentacle, and he flew more than 10 meters away. Xiaoyun, I will leave this to you. I will deal with this tentacle. Gahan climbed up from the ground and gave the task of resisting the ordinary Yuan Ko to Gu Yun. He himself was determined to face this tentacle. Human, give up resistance and leave here. The giant octopus was still buzzing. As soon as my friend recovers, we will leave immediately. Gahan replied. Then die. The giant octopus did not speak anymore because its tentacle had given its answer. The train-like tentacle attacked again. This time, its target was not Gahan, but Misaka Mikoto, who was sitting in the middle waiting for the 12th lightning strike. Don't even think about it. Guhan stood in front of Misaka Mikoto with the poor sword in his hand. He blocked the giant octopus's tentacles with his sword of spring technique. With his strength alone, he was able to block a moving train. Human, despicable. The giant octopus retracted its tentacle. Of course, it did not give up. It was gathering its strength again, like a spring that had been compressed to its limit. It would then explode in an instant, wanting to destroy the entire high platform. Gohan understood the giant octopus's plan the moment it retracted its tentacle. He could not allow the spring to be compressed. Therefore, he stabbed the Qing Pin sword into the giant octopus's tentacle, and his entire body was pulled back to the side of the giant octopus. Chapter 481. When the big octopus retracted its tentacles, it felt that there was a person on top of it. The big octopus was very disdainful. In its mind, it only needed to quickly swing its tentacles to throw this damned human off. As a result, we saw a very interesting scene. The big octopus tentacles began to spin like a Ferris wheel. The spinning tentacles resembled a flying saucer, giving off a sense of déjà vu of a man on a horse. Unfortunately, the big octopus miscalculated. Qing Pin's sword was firmly inserted into the flesh of the tentacle, while Gohan tightly held onto the hilt of Qing Pin's sword, never loosening his grip. Even though his whole body was thrown off, he still didn't leave the big octopus's tentacle. The big octopus saw that it couldn't get rid of this damned human no matter how hard it tried. It suddenly became unhappy. It had used all of its strength. Why hadn't this human rolled off? The big octopus probably regarded this behavior as a provocation. And in response to this provocation, the big octopus felt that what it should do was to throw the human off. The result of this was that the big octopus's tentacles spun even more happily, and it didn't show any signs of stopping. This rotation lasted for more than 40 minutes. The big octopus felt extremely bored, and its tentacles were sore, but Gohan was still on top of it. The big octopus didn't know that this kind of rotation was a piece of cake for Gohan. For a master swordsman, borrowing the enemy's strength was a very basic skill. To put it simply, some things would become a habit after a long time. Perhaps at the beginning, this was a dangerous situation for Gohan, but after a few minutes, Gohan had completely adapted to this state of high rotation. His body didn't feel any discomfort. He could even close his eyes and take a short nap to relieve the fatigue from fighting zombies. In short, Gohan hoped that the big octopus would continue to spin. It would be best if it could spin until the 12th lightning struck down. Unfortunately, the big octopus wasn't so cooperative. After more than 40 minutes. The big octopus finally realized how stupid this behavior was, and then decisively stopped. Happy time is over. When the tentacles stopped moving, Guhan let out a sigh of regret. But thanks to the 40 minutes of spinning, Guhan's exhausted body was able to get some rest. At the very least, his arms were no longer as heavy as 1,000 kilograms when he tried to lift them. Soon, the big octopus's second wave of attack came, this time from the other 7 tentacles of the big octopus. These tentacles were either whipping, pushing, or pushing, trying to drive Gahan down from the tentacles. As long as Gahan went down, the tide of zombies below would be able to teach Gahan a lesson. Unfortunately, although these tentacles were numerous and powerful, they couldn't touch Gahan at all. All of them were easily dodged by Gahan. He was like a sticky candy, tightly glued to the tentacles of the big octopus, and couldn't be beaten down no matter what. And in this quite a long period of entanglement, Gahan also discovered that this big octopus was actually a Yuan Ko that was strong in the middle but weak in the outside. Generally, people would say that others were strong in the outside but weak in the inside, which meant that they were strong on the outside but weak in the inside. But this big octopus Yuan Ko was indeed strong in the middle but weak in the outside. Its own strength was very strong, and its foundation was also excellent, but it simply didn't know any fighting methods, only relying on its own instincts to fight. Take its current attack on Gahan, for example. If Gahan controlled its 7 tentacles that were longer and thicker than a train, he would be beaten down in minutes. But this Yuan Ko completely relied on its own instincts to control it. Wherever Gahan was, it would attack there, without even the simplest prediction. It had to be said that this kind of enemy was really a bit too cute. And this big octopus's IQ was a bit low. In fact, it didn't need to fight with him like this at all. As long as it slightly changed its mind, then Gahan would be completely forced into a desperate situation and could only accept the outcome of defeat. It clearly had such a huge body, but it didn't know how to use it. It clearly had such a big head, but its IQ was almost 0. This was like guarding a large pile of gold, silver, and jewelry in a boundless desert. It was really a pity. But considering that he was a Yuan Ko, this kind of pity was nothing to feel sorry about. This kind of somewhat boring battle continued until Gahan raised his head and looked at the sky. Inexplicably, he started to feel anxious. This was because Gahan noticed that the dark clouds in the sky were gradually dispersing. Seeing this, Gahan instantly lost his cool. The dark clouds were dispersing, which meant that the lightning was about to end. However, the 12th lightning bolt that Misaka Mikoto needed had yet to land beside the Rainflower Terrace. Once the dark clouds completely disappeared, would Gahan still have to wait for it to rain? Even if Gahan was willing to wait, would the big octopus be willing to wait? How long could he play with this big octopus like this? If the big octopus suddenly became smart and noticed Gahan's weakness, then everything would be over. Therefore, Gahan could not afford to delay any longer. He had to immediately think of a way to send the 12th lightning bolt into Misaka Mikoto's body before the dark clouds disappeared. At this time, although there were still some lightning bolts falling occasionally, their main landing point had shifted from the Rainflower Terrace to the Drum Tower District. The two districts were about 10 kilometers apart, and Misaka Mikoto's lightning guidance range was less than 5 kilometers. No matter how many lightning bolts fell from the Drum Tower District, they would not be able to enter Misaka Mikoto's body. Logically speaking, at this time, the best way was to move Misaka Mikoto's body to the Drum Tower District. As long as she was placed anywhere in the Drum Tower District, Misaka Mikoto could easily absorb the 12th lightning bolt. However, Misaka Mikoto clearly told Gahan that she could only absorb the lightning by staying in the Rainflower Terrace to heal herself. Otherwise, she would have gone to the Rainflower Terrace to be struck by lightning. She could just find a random area with no one around. Therefore, Misaka Mikoto could only stay in the Rainflower Terrace to absorb the lightning. She could not even move a muscle. If Gahan wanted to help Misaka Mikoto successfully absorb the 12th lightning bolt, there was only one way he could do it, and that was to find a way to direct the lightning from the Drum Tower District to the Cloud Terrace District. It sounded quite simple, but in reality, it was almost an impossible task. Gahan was entangled by the big octopus. How was he going to reach the Drum Tower District? Even if he reached the Drum Tower District, how was he going to send the lightning to the Cloud Terrace District? With a wire? Although there were a lot of things in Gahan's dimensional pocket that might be useful, a wire that spanned a distance of more than 10 kilometers, was something that Gahan did not have. However, Gahan did not give up hope. He avoided the big octopus's tentacles as he scanned his surroundings. His brain was working frantically again, trying to find a way to solve the problem. Suddenly, Gahan found something interesting. The big octopus's tentacles were extremely long. It could extend from the Qinhuai district where he was at to the Drum Tower district. In other words, the big octopus and its tentacles could almost cover the entire Nanjing city. However, in the battle with the tentacles earlier, the big octopus's tentacles kept avoiding the Drum Tower district. Even if a tentacle occasionally came close, the big octopus would quickly retract it, as if there was something terrifying in the Drum Tower district. So, what kind of terrifying thing could make the big octopus so afraid? The answer was simple. It was the lightning that was constantly falling from the Drum Tower district. The big octopus seemed to be very afraid of lightning. The big octopus had been hiding here for a long time. When Misaka Makoto had just received the lightning, it could have come out to attack. However, it had been hiding in the building and did not expose itself. During the time when it was hiding, it happened to be the time when the lightning was raging in the Yawatai district and Qinhuai district. It was precisely because it was struck by the lightning that it did not appear. It was only until the lightning had completely shifted to the Drum Tower district that it had the courage to show its head and attack Gahan. It seemed that the big octopus was extremely afraid of lightning. Logically speaking, with the size of the big octopus, it was not a big deal to be struck by lightning. The feeling of being struck by lightning on this behemoth was similar to being electrocuted by a small electric spark. Everyone must have played with the electronic lighter inside the lighter and experienced the numbing feeling of being hit by the electric spark from the lighter. To the big octopus, lightning was similar to electric sparks to humans. No one would really care about this numbing feeling. In fact, many people would even enjoy this numbing feeling. As the saying goes, a fool is not afraid of pain. With the big octopus's stupid brain, why would it be afraid of lightning? There was only one reason, and that was that the damage caused by the lightning to the big octopus was definitely not as simple as being hit by an electric spark. It must be a kind of unforgettable pain for the big octopus. The reason why humans did not think that the electric spark was very powerful was that the human body's electrical resistance was actually very high. The electric spark could only numb a small area. If the human body was close to the level of a superconductor, then the electric spark would not be as simple as numbing a small area. It would be conducted to every part of the human body. The same principle applied to the big octopus. What if the electric resistance of the big octopus was not as huge as its body size, but the opposite, close to a superconductor? Then, would the big octopus not be the best conductor in the world? Chapter 482. Soon, a plan formed in Gohan's mind. Itian, come back. As Gohan stretched out his hand, the heavenly sword that was still on the rainflower terrace turned into a ray of light and flew into Gohan's hand. Gohan then sheathed the Qingbin sword into its scabbard and switched the sword scar that he was using to the heavenly sword scar. Gohan, if you let me come back, what about Doyu? Itian was puzzled as she asked through the sword mark. Without her, and Doyu guarding one entrance each, would Misaka Makoto not be surrounded by the bakers? It's okay. I've already told Doyu to give up on blocking the entrance. She just needs to protect Misaka Makoto and not let the zombies hurt her. As he said that, Gohan rolled again and dodged another tentacle attack. But Doyu won't last long. Without someone to protect her, she and Misaka Makoto will be attacked by Yuanko sooner or later. Itian was very worried about Doyu's situation. Don't worry. If my plan succeeds, then she won't have to hold on for too long. She only needs to hold on for 3 minutes. Gohan took a deep breath. With a shake of his hand, a verdant wine gourd appeared in his palm. Hey, bastard, what are you doing with my wine gourd? Itian was shocked when she saw her wine gourd in Gohan's hand. It was obvious that she was very unhappy that her wine gourd was in Gohan's hands. Aren't you going to let me have a taste of the green plum wine? As Gohan dodged the giant octopus's attack, he did not forget to give her a devilish smile. Bastard, the green plum wine is mine. I can only save a mouthful of it in an hour. Bastard, the green plum wine belongs to me. Etion wailed from within the sword mark. Unfortunately, it had no effect. Guhan still downed the green plum wine in his gourd without any hesitation. Good wine. Even Gahan, who didn't drink wine, couldn't help but praise the green plum wine after swallowing it. This was a very magical taste. After entering the mouth, there was a mellow and sweet sweetness, but after entering the stomach, it was like a raging fire burning in the body. Gohan couldn't help but feel something called heroism blossom from his stomach and occupy his entire body. Right now, Guhan was the same as Etion from before. He was wearing a mighty dragon armor. Come out, Yellow Claw Lightning. Almost instinctively, Guhan stepped on the giant octopus's tentacle and summoned the divine steed claw, Huang Feidian, from the tentacle. It appeared under Gahan's crotch. The giant octopus would probably be very frustrated when it saw this scene. No matter how hard it tried, it could not understand how a horse could appear from its tentacle. Is this the hero form? Guhan felt that at this moment, he didn't just have a new set of dazzling armor and a horse. Instead, Gohan's entire body now had the temperament of a hero. Originally, Gahan was good at scheming, liked to make plans before taking action, and was full of rationality. Now, he wanted to fight against the heavens and use the sword in his hand to slay all the Yuan-Kos in the world. He wanted to use his own strength to make everyone submit to him. It was as if the soul of a hero had descended into Gahan's body, making Guhan feel that everything was no longer difficult. He could use his own strength and courage to defeat them. This kind of feeling and personality was something that Guhan had never experienced before in his life, because this was an extremely Chinibyu personality. This is the feeling of being a hero. Gohan couldn't help but close his eyes and experience this feeling that he had never felt before. I like this feeling. Claw Huang Feidian let out a neigh, and its four hooves ran along the tentacles of the giant octopus. The galloping Huang Feidian was extremely fast, and in the blink of an eye, it had escaped from the entanglement of a large group of tentacles. The giant octopus seemed to be completely dumbfounded. It couldn't understand how Gahan, who had been besieged by it, could suddenly have a horse under his butt and escape from its tentacles. This caused the giant octopus tentacles to freeze in place for a moment, as if it was a statue. Very soon, the giant octopus reacted. It couldn't run away, so its three tentacles followed behind Gahan's, but wanting to catch this annoying little goblin back. Horses were the animals that were best at accelerating in a straight line. Previously, in the battle between the Heavenly Reliance and the Excavator Zombie, because it had to constantly change directions to chase the Excavator Zombie, Claw Huang Feidian couldn't run at its full speed. It was like a racing car that had to slow down when making a turn. Don't tell me that you can drift without slowing down. Don't you know that you have to step on the brakes when drifting? But now, under the control of Guhan, Claude Huang Feidian was finally able to run in a straight line without slowing down. It ran at the fastest speed in its life. Claude Huang Feidian was really a terrifying horse. In these 10 seconds, it kept accelerating, and in the end, it actually broke through the sound barrier. Guhan could even hear the bursts of sonic booms ringing in his ears. When the 10 seconds of hero mode passed, Claw Huang Feidian under Gahan's crotch roared unwillingly, and then disappeared under Gahan's crotch. As for Gahan, because of inertia, he directly fell to the ground and rolled for a few hundred meters before finally stopping. Great! I finally reached the Gula district. Gahan stood up and looked around. He found that the surrounding zombies were all alone and not in a large scale. He knew that he had already broken through the two administrative districts of Nanjing, Qinhuai District and Xuanwu District, and reached the once most prosperous Gula District. And the 8 tentacles of the giant octopus stopped at the border between the Gulu District and Xuanwu District. It hesitated, not daring to go forward and grab Gahan, who was very close at hand. Ha ha ha! I didn't think that an octopus like you was actually a piece of trash. You let me escape so easily. Trash! Trash! Gohan laughed crazily, throwing out all kinds of taunts. Everyone who was familiar with Gohan's personality knew that Gohan wasn't a person who liked to taunt his opponents. His taunts definitely had their own meaning. But obviously, this giant octopus didn't know this. It was already angered by Gohan's taunts. Its 8 tentacles were ready to move, but it was still afraid of the Gula district and didn't dare to make a move. Trash! Why don't you make a move? Aren't your tentacles very powerful? Gohan sneered, and his face showed a playful expression. Don't tell me that you, this giant octopus, are also afraid of the thunder and lightning here like those little kids? Well, Gohan's words completely angered the giant octopus. As the saying goes, don't hit people's faces, don't scold people's shortcomings. This giant octopus had to make a move even if it didn't want to. Otherwise, didn't it mean that it was really afraid of these thunder and lightning? So, the 8 tentacles of the giant octopus were like lightning, instantly grabbing out. These 8 tentacles grabbed out from 8 different directions, completely blocking all the possible escape routes of Gohan. It seemed that after more than an hour of fighting, this giant octopus finally had a little bit of growth. Logically speaking, if Gohan really wanted to avoid these tentacles, even if they grabbed from 8 directions at the same time, Gohan was still confident that he could dodge them. But the problem was that at this time, Gohan didn't want to dodge at all. He stood there straight, letting the 8 tentacles wrap around his body at the same time. It was like a tentacle play, and he was firmly grabbed by the giant octopus. Well, now even if Gohan had great skills, he couldn't escape from the grasp of the giant octopus's tentacles. Gohan! Etion let out a cry of surprise. He wanted to say something, but he felt a quiet intent from Gohan's sword mark. Etion shut his mouth on the spot and didn't say anything else. He secretly felt sad for this unlucky giant octopus. It seemed that Gohan had already arranged a sad trap for this giant octopus. Why don't you escape? Asked the giant octopus in a buzzing voice. Compared to the indifference from before, there was finally a little more emotion in its words. No matter how stupid it was, it could still see that Gohan didn't dodge at all just now. Nothing. I'm tired, so I wanted to talk to you. Gohan smiled confidently. My friend is still there, so I can't escape alone. What do you want to talk to me about? Asked the giant octopus. How about we talk about a deal? If you let my friend finish her treatment and let her leave here safely, I'll hand my life over to you. How about that? Said Gohan faintly. You're already in my hands. I can crush you at any time, said the giant octopus proudly. As long as I want to, I can leave this place at any time. You know my strength. I've never bragged. Of course, Gohan wasn't bragging. As long as he willed it, he could leave and return to the trial array. The giant octopus was silent. The battle that lasted more than an hour just now had also tired it out. In its subconscious, it had already tacitly accepted the fact that Gohan was very powerful. So when Gohan said that he could escape from the giant octopus's palm, the giant octopus believed it. Moreover, it believed it without a doubt. Next, Gohan displayed his talent for chatting and began to talk about all kinds of things. He also mixed a lot of chicken soup for the soul and the like. This made the giant octopus stunned. It was immersed in Gohan's words and forgot to retract its tentacles. At this time, there was a faint light in the dark clouds in the sky. Gohan's heart moved, knowing that the time had come. You know what? You're actually very stupid. You shouldn't have pestered me just now. If you had directly grabbed my friend who was sitting there, I would have no choice but to surrender, said Gohan suddenly. When the giant octopus heard that, it came to a sudden realization. That's right. Why did I pester this human just now? The giant octopus was filled with regret. It immediately extended one of its tentacles toward where Misaka Mikoto was. It wanted to capture Misaka Mikoto to make up for its mistake. This is the moment I've been waiting for. In the blink of an eye, Gohan threw the heavenly sword in his hand into the sky. There was a long copper wire on the hilt of the heavenly sword that was connected to Gohan's arm. At this time, the lightning that had been brewing in the sky for a long time finally struck down. Under the attraction of the heavenly sword, it instantly struck the body of the heavenly sword. A huge electric current flowed through the copper wire on the heavenly sword and into Gohan's body. Then, through the tentacle that was grabbing onto Gohan's body, it was instantly transmitted to the giant octopus's entire body. The giant octopus's tentacle that was about to reach Misaka Mikoto was no exception. Therefore, the lightning passed through Heavenly Sword, Gohan, and the giant octopus's bodies and successfully entered Misaka Mikoto's body. All 12 lightning bolts were finally completed. Chapter 483. I'm sorry, I didn't control it well. I wanted to make it smaller, Misaka Mikoto said guiltily. Plop. Gohan, whose upper body was numb, fell to the ground. Dozens of burnt tentacles fell together with Gohan. These tentacles gave off the strong aroma of grilled octopus. The giant octopus was indeed the best lead. Just one lightning strike was enough to destroy all of its tentacles. All of its tentacles fell to the ground, leaving only the body of the octopus. However, it was also burnt black, and it was hard to tell if it was dead or alive. However, is this really the power that a universe-level Yuan-ko can possess? Gohan could not help but think. He recalled the book's definition of a universe-level Yuan-ko. The definition of a universe-level Yuan-ko was very simple. Able to destroy a city with a population of 5 million with a single strike, leaving no survivors. Forget it, this is just a ruin. The only one alive here is the damn Yuan-ko. Even if you don't destroy this place, I'll destroy it sooner or later. Gohan sighed. Although Gohan said that he did not mind seeing one of the central cities of Huaxia completely disappear, he still felt a little sad in his heart. Let me explain it to you. The author has never read any Enchanted World novels. He didn't even read the second season of the Enchanted World. Therefore, his understanding of cis canon is only at the level of anime. His understanding of the Enchanted World is also at the same level. As for the more in-depth world, I'm not interested in understanding it, nor am I interested in writing about it. To be honest, Misaka Mikoto's posture was a little bad. As long as Gohan glanced up, he would be able to see her underwear with a frog pattern printed on it. Unlike the train-like tentacles from before, the tentacles this time were only as thick as a water pipe. However, the tips of the tentacles were extremely sharp. The tentacles had turned into sharp knives that were trying to pierce into Gohan's body and turn Gohan's body into a sieve. This was definitely not good news for the human race. As long as 10% of the Yuan souls in this world advanced to a small realm, the fragile balance that the human race maintained would be completely broken, and the human race would face a super crisis of extinction. What do you mean? Close your eyes? Gohan was stunned. Then he heard a vague voice. Forbidden territory, God's super electromagnetic gun. Do-yu, come back. At that critical moment, Gohan ordered Gu-yun to return to her sword. He planned to activate the power of the trial ground and return to Changyang Mountain. As for what would happen to Misaka Mikoto and whether she could heal him, Gohan could not care less. If he did not leave now, Gohan would really be killed by the giant octopus. I'm sorry, I didn't control my power well. Misaka Mikoto blushed when she saw the disbelief on Gohan's face. She began to apologize. I didn't know that my power had reached such a level. I only wanted to destroy that giant octopus. I didn't expect to destroy Nanjing City. I really didn't mean to destroy your ruins. I'll help you rebuild it in the future. The number of tentacles on the giant octopus's skin corresponded to the number of volcanic craters on its body. Gohan took a quick glance and saw more than 100 tentacles. These tentacles only had one target, which was Gohan, who was half kneeling on the ground. You lied to me. Despicable human, you lied to me. An extremely sorrowful voice echoed in the sky. It was the giant octopus's voice. Human, I wanted to let you live. But you lied to me. You lied to me. You must die. You must die. However, Gohan was surprised to find that Gu-yun had chosen to reject his order. Gohan did not use a forceful order, so the sword mistress still had the ability to reject him. Thank you. Gohan extended his hand. Misaka Mikoto understood his intention and extended her hand as well. The two of them held each other's hands tightly, forming a legend that would be passed down by all humans in the future. Oh well, I just hope that Misaka Makoto is done healing. It's time for me to go. Half of Guhan's body was paralyzed by the lightning. It was impossible for him to evade the sharp tentacles' attacks. Fortunately, Guhan's body was buffed by Doyu Sword and Heavenly Sword's yin-yang swordplay tactics. Otherwise, he would not have been paralyzed. He would have turned into a dried corpse by now. Mr. Guhan, haven't you rested enough? As the golden light in front of Guhan's eyes gradually dissipated, an energetic voice rang in Guhan's ears. Guhan opened his eyes and saw Misaka Makoto squatting on his head, smiling at him. Ms. Misaka, please forgive me for being presumptuous. May I ask if you still have the ability of a universe-level freelancer? Guhan asked after thinking for a while. Since he was friends with Misaka Makoto, he could ask her directly. There was no need for him to beat around the bush. However, that was the truth. Since the beginning of human history, the level that Yuan Ko entered the human world would always be the same level. The 999,999% Yuan Ko would not have any possibility of leveling up. Therefore, when a legendary item that could allow a desolate level Yuan Ko to level up appeared in the world, it attracted the 3 desolate level Yuan Ko's attention. Of course, in the end, the 3 desolate level Yuan Ko's ended up dead, proving the truth that Yuan Ko could not level up. Wait a minute. The place I'm lying on did not change at all. Guhan lowered his head, only to find that the area of about 100 square meters where he was lying at this time still maintained its original appearance. It was covered with white cement, forming a sharp contrast with the surrounding scorched black, like a crane among a flock of chickens. Did you notice it too? Misaka Makoto began to look doubtful. I couldn't believe it either. However, after seeing this power, I have to believe it. I'm afraid I've become a universe-level Yuan Ko. Nanjing had a population of 10 million people before the apocalypse. The power of Misaka Makoto's attack was twice that of a universe-level Yuan Ko's. If it was an all-out attack, Misaka Makoto should be very tired and exhausted. However, Misaka Makoto was able to talk and laugh with him. She could even subtly control a 100 square meter area to prevent it from being attacked. This was not something that could be achieved with an all-out attack. Then there was the problem of power. If the power was based on the original work, then there was no need for me to write the book. Any small boss in the Forbidden World could easily defeat the big boss in the Moon World. There was no comparison at all. Therefore, the author would redesign the power of the various worlds Yuan Ko according to certain rules to ensure that they would be able to maintain their corresponding power. At the very least, my Artoria would be able to fight evenly with a universe level. Otherwise, according to the power settings, how many Artorias would it take to defeat a universe-level Yuan Ko? Guhan was speechless. Even Guhan himself would not be able to achieve this level of control. Misaka Makoto was indeed a universe-level Yuan Ko. Her mastery of electromagnetism had reached the pinnacle. If he wanted to achieve this level of mastery of sword energy, he would need at least 10 years or even a few decades. Lastly, regarding the setting of Yuan Ko's character, if there was a chance for this book to be published in the future, the author would definitely change all the copyrighted Yuan Ko characters. For example, he would replace Sis Cannon with Electro. Of course, that is if there is a chance for this book to be published in the future. P.S. In the book review section, there is a description of Sis Cannon's power. There are also comments about how terrifying the gods in the Forbidden World are and how they have the power to turn the earth upside down. The author also commented that I was wrong. The giant octopus's voice was like an explosion. Then, the charred skin on his body started to peel off. Finally, a layer of pink skin was revealed. At the same time, black smoke rose from the small volcanic craters on his body. Then, countless tentacles shot out from the volcanic craters. Guhan turned his head around and slowly got up from the ground. He smiled weakly. Ms. Misaka, congratulations. You've recovered. Did you control all this? You purposely controlled your skill so that it didn't hurt me? Although Guhan was certain, he still sounded doubtful. It could not be helped. Guhan could not believe that Misaka Mikoto was able to evade the godly super electromagnetic gun's wide-range attack by deliberately leaving a small area untouched. What kind of terrifying control did she have? F***CK. Is she going to use her ultimate skill? Gahan immediately closed his eyes. At that moment, he felt a golden light shining in front of him. Even with his eyes closed, Gahan would have been blinded. If Gohan's eyes were open, who knew what color Gohan's eyes would see? Gohan let go of his hand and finally had a chance to look at his surroundings. He was completely shocked. At that moment, the entire Nanjing city had turned from a wasteland to a scorched land. Not a single tree or ruin could be seen. As far as the eye could see, it was all charred black, as if it had been flattened by a terrifying force. How did this happen? You've leveled up. Gohan finally got an affirmative answer from Misaka Mikoto. It was not strange at all. Humans could continuously level up from an ancient sword level sword wielder to an emperor sword level sword wielder. Could it be that Yuan Ko was not allowed to level up his ability? It's all thanks to you. Misaka Mikoto nodded and placed a hand on Gohan's shoulder. Mr. Gohan, don't worry. Misaka Mikoto, will definitely do what I promised you. From today onwards, you're my best friend. Whenever you need help, I'll do my best to help you. Misaka Mikoto said solemnly. However, according to some groundless legends and urban legends, there were a few Yuan Ko who had completed his own leveling up through some unknown method. All this while, Gohan had been skeptical of such groundless rumors. It was only when he saw Misaka Mikoto that he was certain that Yuan Ko could level up. Brother, Sister Misaka told you to lie there and close your eyes. You'll be fine in a while. Guyan giggled through the sword mark. Unfortunately, Gohan soon realized that he was wrong. The giant octopus was not dead. This is the first time I've seen the force of nature kill Yuan Ko. Gohan exclaimed. Although it's clearly written in the textbooks that other than objects containing sword essences and sword mothers, the force of nature on Earth can also kill Yuan Ko, it's still rare for the force of nature to kill Yuan Ko. This is the first time in Gohan's life that Yuan Ko was killed by natural lightning. The giant octopus was the direct target of Misaka Mikoto's ultimate skill. At that time, it didn't even have a physical body. It had turned into a pile of black ashes like the ashes of a tomb sweeping during the Qingming festival. Logically speaking, under such circumstances, the giant octopus should be dead for sure. However, Guhan's personal terminal kept flashing, showing that there was a Yuan Shun's reaction in the middle of the ashes. Of course, this could also be a false alarm from the personal terminal, and the probability of it being a false alarm was very high. That was because the miniaturization of a Yuan Ko detector was a somewhat unreliable technology. This scanner was sometimes ineffective and did not even respond to certain parts of the Yuan Ko. Therefore, most of the time, the swordsman could not be bothered to pay attention to the alerts from the Yuan Ko detector on the personal terminal. However, at this time, Guhan could not ignore it. If this giant octopus was really still alive, it would probably not take long for it to recover its strength and become a human opponent again. It was better to take advantage of its weakness and kill it. Therefore, Gohan followed the directions of the personal terminal and walked step by step to the place where the signal was the strongest. This was the core area of the giant octopus's carcass. There was a small mound of ashes there. It seemed that there was a little more ash there. However, if one looked closely at the mound, they would find that the whole mound was shaking slightly. Dust constantly rolled down from the mound. There was something in the mound. Gohan directly swept a sword energy over, and the dust on the small mound was instantly blown away, revealing a nest of little elves. Wait, should this be the remains of the giant octopus? How did it become a nest of little elves? But the truth was that there was no octopus in the mound. There were only 8 little people the size of chicks with a pair of wings gathered together in fear. They were holding hands and chest to chest. When they saw Guhan, their expressions were as if they had seen the devil. Sister, sister, so scary, so scary. 8 clear and melodious voices cried out at the same time. Coupled with their frightened expressions, it was impossible to kill them. However, these 8 little elves called each other sister at the same time. Moreover, they looked exactly the same. Logically speaking, who is the big sister? At least come out and explain. 8. Although these little elves were extremely cute, there was not the slightest bit of tenderness in Gahan's eyes. The number of 8 reminded Gahan of the giant octopus' 8 tentacles. Even a ghost could see that there was a deep connection between them. These 8 little elves were most likely transformed from the giant octopus. Trying to use your appearance to gain sympathy? Gahan did not care about their cuteness at all. Throughout history, there were too many humans who died tragically because of Yuan Ko's momentary weakness and cuteness. The story of the farmer and the snake had never stopped, no matter what era it was. Gahan raised his Qingbin sword and was ready to slash down with another sword energy. Looking at the size of these little elves, Gahan would probably only need one slash to turn them into green, red, or black mush, just like the cockroaches and moths that we usually killed. Wait, you can't kill them. At that moment, Misaka Makoto suddenly stopped him. What? Gohan's hand froze, and he stopped attacking. Things were different now. Previously, Misaka Makoto needed Gahan's protection since Gahan had the power. That was why she listened to Gahan's every word. However, Misaka Makoto had regained her power. In fact, it could even be said that she had reached the level of an epic-level freedom user. She was only one step away from chaos. Emperor's Sword, Yuan Ko, and the Sword Wielder. If Misaka Makoto wanted to, she could directly electrolyze Gahan. I need a reason. Gahan's voice was low. He did not like being suppressed by Misaka Makoto. That's because these little elves are no longer Yuan Ko. Misaka Makoto bent down and gently grabbed the little elves' heads as if they were little dolls. Then, she pulled them into her arms. Although Misaka Makoto was very gentle toward them, the little elves did not appreciate it. They panicked and desperately tried to escape from Misaka Makoto's arms. Looks like I scared them to death just now. Misaka Makoto looked a little embarrassed when she saw that. She had scared them to death. From being the world's #1 octopus, they had been electrocuted into little things that were similar to a doll on a key. It would be strange if they were not afraid of Misaka Makoto. Ms. Misaka, you said that they're no longer Yuan Ko. Are you saying that they've become freedom users? Gahan voiced out his speculation. However, they become freedom users. I can't sense any filth from their bodies. Misaka Makoto smiled gently. The electrolysis must have removed the filth from the giant octopus's body. It's amazing. I didn't expect that I could remove the filth from their bodies. There has never been a case of a freedom user removing the filth from their bodies with the help of someone else. Misaka Makoto's words revealed a very important piece of information. The current freedom users relied on their own power to remove the filth from their bodies. There had never been a case of freedom users removing the filth from their bodies with the help of another freedom user. It was a very important piece of information that Gahan kept in mind. Since Ms. Misaka said that they're freedom users, then they must be freedom users. Gahan said expressionlessly, Ms. Misaka, please take good care of these little elves. Don't let them get hurt. What? You don't believe me? Misaka Makoto glared at Gahan. Now that I'm at Ian level, I have many abilities that I couldn't even imagine when I was at universe level. Do you know? In fact, human consciousness is also a manifestation of electric currents. I can enter your brain at any time and monitor your brain currents to know what you're thinking. As long as I'm willing, I can understand anything you're thinking. F***CK. Isn't this ability too overpowered? Even Gahan could not help but shudder when he heard Misaka Makoto's ability. He did not expect a level 6 electricity user to be so terrifying. I'm not interested in entering your brain to see what filthy things are in there. Misaka Makoto spat. The reason why I'm telling you all this is to let you know that I have complete control over these 8 little ones from their minds to their bodies. They're all under my control. Don't worry, I've erased all of their memories from the era of the giant octopus. They're now a clean sheet of paper, 8 of the purest children. Chapter 485. Oh, Gohan replied calmly, which almost infuriated Misaka Mikoto. Don't act like this has nothing to do with you. Let me tell you, these 8 little guys are my gifts to you. You have to treat them well and raise them well, understand? Misaka Mikoto suddenly said. Oomph, 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 oomph. Wait, what does that mean? What gift to me? What do you mean I have to raise them up? Gohan looked at Misaka Mikoto with a dumbfounded expression. He did not expect that the 8 little elves would automatically appear in Gohan's arms as soon as the electric light flashed on Misaka Mikoto's body. They were different from how anxious they were when they were in Misaka Mikoto's arms. They instantly became intimate in Gohan's arms. Some of them even yawned and rubbed themselves against Gohan's body as they looked for a comfortable spot to lie down and sleep. They seemed to really treat Gohan's chest as their nest. Fortunately, Gohan did not wear the infant pouch. Otherwise, Chingpin's throne would have been usurped by someone else. Ms. Misaka, I'm afraid this isn't appropriate. Gohan's expression was as ugly as if he had been constipated for more than 10 days. I'm a sword wielder, and I have to take care of these 8 little elves. What's wrong with that? There's no such example in Yuzhong City. Misaka Mikoto did not answer Gohan's question directly. Instead, she started another topic. Little brother Gohan, I hereby announce to you that you're my, Misaka Mikoto's, little brother Gohan, and I'm your big sister Mikoto. From now on, you're not allowed to call me Ms. Misaka. We'll address each other as brother and sister. What the hell is this? Does it have to be so sudden? Gohan had never thought of looking for an older sister. Therefore, Gohan instinctively wanted to reject this older sister who had descended from the sky. However, he swallowed his words when Misaka Mikoto said something. Little brother Gohan, from now on, as long as you don't call me Big Sister Mikoto, I'll immediately return to the Freedom Metropolis. I don't care about Yuzhong City anymore. Anyway, Loki won't dare to hurt my friends. Once Yuzhong City is done for, he'll send my friends back to the Freedom Metropolis. Do you understand? Misaka Mikoto said proudly. When Gohan heard Misaka Mikoto's words, he could only swallow his words. Misaka Mikoto was right. As long as the desolate level freedman in the Freedom Metropolis was still around, Loki would never dare to kill the freedman in the Freedom Metropolis. Misaka Mikoto did not need to save her friends at all. All she needed to do was to wait for them to be fed and sent back to the Freedom Metropolis. However, without the help of Misaka Mikoto, the universe level Yuan Ko, only God knew what would happen to Yuzhong City. Although Misaka Mikoto's threat was mostly meant as a joke, Gohan did not really think that Misaka Mikoto was the kind of person who would turn her back on him. If Gohan forcefully rejected her, Misaka Mikoto would most likely follow him back to Yuzhong City. However, why would Gohan reject Misaka Mikoto's request? As long as he calmed down and thought about it, he would know how beneficial it would be if he really became Misaka Mikoto's sibling. Becoming sibling with a universe-level freedman would undoubtedly be of great help to Gohan in the future. Wasn't it normal for an older sister to help her younger brother deal with some small problems? Wasn't it a natural thing to do? Relying on the favor of saving Misaka Mikoto would only be able to exchange for Misaka Mikoto's temporary help. However, by relying on their sibling relationship, Gohan would be able to continuously receive the power of the universe level Yuan Ko. Only a fool would refuse this. After understanding this, Gohan could only pretend to be frightened by Misaka Mikoto's threat and obediently called her Sister Mikoto. When Misaka Mikoto heard Gohan call her sister, she could not help but feel relieved. Great, now that she and Gohan were siblings, all those crazy thoughts of letting that idiot down could go with the wind. All right, let's talk about these 8 little fellows. Don't think that I'm throwing these 8 burdens to you. Let me tell you, these 8 little fellows have extraordinary potential. Misaka Mikoto patted the heads of the 8 little elves. Hearing Misaka Mikoto's words, the 8 little elves were as quiet as cicadas in winter and did not dare to move. Misaka Mikoto sighed. If it wasn't for the fact that I'm afraid that I'll scare them to death with me, I wouldn't bear to let you take care of them. Where do they come from? When Gahan heard Misaka Mikoto's words, it was the first time he did not feel so repulsed by the 8 little fellows. I'm not sure about its exact origin, but it should be a free being born because of the mutation of the godly super electromagnetic gun from the giant octopus. Although I don't know their exact origins, when I checked their bodies, I found out that their bodies have already formed elemental models. Elemental models? Once again, Gahan heard a new name. However, it was not like he had never heard of it before. It seemed like the core of Misaka Mikoto's body, which was also the key to Misaka Mikoto's advancement to universe level, was something called electromagnetic modeling. Elemental models are the key reason why my friends and I were able to advance to level 6. I don't know how the universe level Yuan-Ko from other worlds are able to activate their powerful strength, but the freedmen from my world and I can only master the power of universe level after forming elemental models in our bodies. Little brother Gahan, do you understand what I'm saying now? I think I understand a little. Gahan nodded in a daze. He still found it hard to believe. Sister Mikoto, you mean that these little fellows have already formed elemental models in their bodies, and they are all universe-level Yuan-Ko? Gahan really couldn't believe it. No one would believe that these 8 little fellows who were sleeping on his chest were 8 universe-level freedmen. This was not something that the 3 Egyptian gods could compare to the universe-level Yuan-Ko, who seemed to be on good terms with Gahan. From a way, these little fellows relied on him. As long as Gahan adjusted them well, they could all become his family or his precious daughters. This meant that Gahan now had 11 universe-level Yuan-Ko or freedmen as his helpers. As long as Gahan was willing, he could even usurp the throne in Yuzhong City and take over Wu Dao's position. Look at you, it's not that simple. I'm just a universe-level freedman. How can I create 8 universe-level freedmen in one go? They're at most mouse level now, and they need your help to become universe-level freedmen. Maybe universe level isn't their limit, it's possible for them to reach universe level, just like Sister. Then how should I help them? Gahan must have made up his mind to adopt these 8 little fellows. No one could resist the temptation of 8 universe level or even universe level freedmen becoming his helpers. It's very simple. Find the attribute of their elemental modeling, then look for energy of the same attribute and pour it into their bodies, just like how my electromagnetic attribute needs the heavenly lightning. Misaka Mikoto said it lightly, but it sounded like a pain in the ass to Gahan. Sister, you said it yourself. Not all lightning can be used by you, and only the lightning from the Rainflower Terrace can be used. Now that the Rainflower Terrace is destroyed, where am I going to find the lightning they want? Even if I can find the lightning, where am I going to find the other 7 elements? They might just be mouse-level freedmen for the rest of their lives. You should bring them back to Freedom City and let them live their lives freely. It's not as difficult as you think. Rare things like the lightning from the Rainflower Terrace are only needed to reconstruct their elemental modeling. Now that the elemental modeling in their bodies has been completed, all you need to do is pour the ordinary elemental energy into their bodies and let them absorb it themselves. Misaka Mikoto knocked on Gahan's head affectionately. All right, protect the 8 of them. We should return to Yuzhong City. First pour, second pour, third pour, fourth pour, fifth pour, sixth pour, seventh pour, eighth pour. All of you, stand properly and start counting. In a temporary campsite, Qing Pin, who was not very tall herself, picked up a tree branch and used it as a pointer. She started training the 8 little guys that she had just taken in. These little guys were the 8 little elves that Gahan had just obtained, the Yuan-Ko elves, who were said to be able to grow to universe level. Under Qingpin's command, they flapped their little wings and formed a line in the air that was at the same level as Qingpin's head. However, only God knew if the 8 little elves were standing in the wrong order. Even with Gahan's eyesight, he could not tell the difference between the 8 little elves. However, it seemed like Qingpin was able to tell the difference. At the very least, she had pointed out that the positions of first pour and seventh pour were reversed. When the sky was getting dark and Gahan was setting up the campsite, Qingpin, who had just been released, found that she had 8 new toys. She immediately clambered beside Gahan and wanted to be the master of these 8 little elves. Although Gahan was afraid that these unlucky kids would be played by Qingpin, Gahan, who didn't have the time or desire to take care of these little guys, found that it was actually a good choice to let Qingpin take care of them. In fact, although Qingpin was naughty, she had a certain level of propriety. Qingpin's naughtiness would only appear when she was resting, but in a real battle, Qingpin had never really dropped the ball. Therefore, Gahan believed that Qingpin would take care of these little guys. Needless to say, Gahan's guess was not wrong. In a short period of time, Qingpin successfully became the master of these little guys. These little guys were also very obedient to Qingpin. They would do whatever Qingpin said, just like 8 living followers. After hearing that her 8 disciples did not have their own names, Qingpin immediately generously expressed that she could share her name with her disciples. Therefore, the names of first poor, second poor, third poor, fourth poor, fifth poor, sixth poor, seventh poor, and eighth poor were officially given to these 8 little guys. By the time Guhan discovered this, the 8 little ones had already completely accepted these 8 names. They couldn't change it even if they wanted to. Chapter 486. Mine, this is mine. No, this is my third pores. Gohan had a headache looking at the 8 poor people flying around in front of him. Didn't they say that newborn babies like to sleep? Why were these 8 little guys so noisy? These 8 troublemakers have been fighting for almost an hour for the glass bead that Gohan took out for them to pass the time. Gohan felt like he was watching a thrilling football game. It was so noisy that Gohan couldn't even sleep. First pour, second pour, 8th pour, all of you go to sleep. Qingpin's head is hurting because of her noise. In the end, Qingpin's words were still useful. After she spoke, the 8 troublemakers immediately shut their mouths. They obediently flew into Gohan's hair and began to sleep. It was probably because Gohan's hair was very similar to a bird's nest. These 8 troublemakers had already determined that Gohan's hair was their nest. They hid inside and refused to come out. There were 8 little guys hiding in his hair to sleep. If this happened to him, no one would be able to sleep peacefully. It was not that there was something in his hair that was uncomfortable, but Gohan was worried that if he turned over, he would squash the 8 little guys in his hair. Gohan held it in for a while and decided to let Qingpin open her mouth to call out these little guys. But when he looked closely, he found that Qingpin had already fallen asleep in Gohan's arms. This child, she had fought and played for a whole day today. She must be exhausted, seeing Qingpin sleeping soundly. How could Gohan bear to wake her up? He could only squint his eyes and drowsily feel the flesh of the 8 little guys in his hair. He couldn't sleep, nor could he not sleep. Brother, Yun has something to tell you. Just as Gohan was struggling, he suddenly heard Gu Yun's voice. He opened his eyes and found that Gu Yun, who was supposed to be sleeping on the other bed, was now lying beside him. Don't mess around. Go to sleep. Brother doesn't have time to play with you now. Gohan patted Gu Yun's head and didn't want to talk to her anymore. Brother, Xiaoyun isn't messing with you. Xiaoyun has something important to tell you. Gu Yun moved closer and moved her mouth close to Gohan's ear. The fragrance of a young girl floated into Gohan's nose. Brother, Xiaoyun's stomach is so bloated. Hurry up and take away the thing in Xiaoyun's stomach. What kind of nonsense was this? Please don't make it sound so ambiguous. What's going on? Xiaoyun, what's wrong with you? What's in your stomach? Gohan shuddered and became more energetic. However, Gohan did not think too much about it. He was only worried about Gu Yun's health. Brother, after Sister Misaka killed all the Yuan Ko with one shot, a huge dimensional whirlpool appeared. Xiaoyun sneaked in and accidentally ate too much. Gu Yun pitifully told him the reason for her bloated stomach. He broke out in cold sweat when he heard the news. He did not expect that to be the reason for Gu Yun's bloated stomach. Based on the density of the zombies that covered half of Nanjing, Misaka Mikoto's super electromagnetic gun had killed at least 1 million Yuan Ko. If all the Yuan Ko were absorbed by the same dimensional whirlpool, even if 1 Yuan Ko could only bring in 1 quark of sword essence, the dimensional whirlpool would contain at least 1 million quarks of sword essence. Gu Yun had gone in for a spin. It would be strange if she did not die from the terrifying amount of sword essence in the dimensional whirlpool. There was a limit to the amount of sword essence that a sword maiden could absorb at one time. For example, a sword maiden could only accumulate 10,000 quarks of sword essence in their body at one time. After that, they would not be able to absorb any more sword essence. They would have to transfer all the sword essence in their body to their sword wielder before they could absorb the sword essence in the dimensional whirlpool. To be able to make sword maidens feel bloated, this was a feeling that could only be felt when the sword elemental storage in their bodies had reached 95% or above. In other words, Gu Yun should have at least 9,500 quarks of sword elemental around her. There were at least 1 million quarks of sword elemental in the dimensional vortex. If Gu Yun went one round inside, it was very likely that she would be filled with sword elemental, reaching the upper limit of 10,000 quarks of sword elemental. If all these sword elemental were transferred to Gu Han's body, based on the calculation of 50%, it was very likely that Gu Han would have an additional 5,000 quarks of sword elemental. Gu Yun, why did you only tell your brother about this now? Brother is going to pull out the thing in your stomach right now. Gu Han immediately threw the drowsiness to the back of his mind. He placed his hand on Gu Yun's body, planning to return her to his sword and stick her to his stomach. He would then use the purple mansion transfer technique to transfer the sword essence in Gu Yun's body. Oh, right. I wonder if everyone still remembers how the sword essence is transferred. If you don't, you can go read chapter 125. The author will not repeat the story. When the sword essence in Gu Yun's body began to flow into the mark on Gu Han's Douyu sword, Gu Han was surprised to find that the amount of sword essence stored in Gu Yun's body far exceeded his estimation. The sword essence stored in her body was not 10,000 quarks, but doubled to 20,000 quarks of sword essence. This was another discovery that surpassed the common sense of a sword maiden. Since ancient times, the upper limit of a sword maiden storage was 10,000 quarks. Even if she was Jindi, Kinzu's sword maiden, it would still be this number. There would absolutely be no change. But now, Gu Yun's body actually stored 20,000 quarks. This had completely reversed the common sense that Gu Han knew. Could this be because of the yin-yang sword art? Suddenly, Gu Han thought of the yin-yang sword art. Since the yin-yang sword art allowed the Douyu sword and heavenly sword to fuse into one, then having twice the amount of sword essence stored in a sword maiden seemed to be very normal. Since ancient times, no sword wielder had ever successfully practiced the yin-yang sword art, so naturally, there were no records about the amount of sword essence stored. This was a very scientific matter, and there was nothing strange about it. So be it. Gu Han decided not to waste any effort thinking about the yin-yang sword art. He greedily absorbed the huge amount of sword essence from Gu Yun's body. This was an extremely long process. When Gu Han finished all of this, the sky had already brightened, and a new day had begun. From this day onwards, the amount of sword essence in Gu Han's body had already surpassed that of a treasured sword wielder, and reached the requirement of a famed sword wielder. With around 14,000 sword essences, Gu Han could now go look for his own famed sword wielder, the sword mistress. King Yu, wait for me. Once Yuzhong City is peaceful again, I'll go and find you in Yinjing City. Gu Han murmured in his heart. How's Eagle Cat doing? Outside the super VIP ward of the Sword Bearers Medical Center, Sword Immortal Cloud Sky and Sword Immortal Baiju were both waiting at the door, looking at the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit lying on the bed. Sir Chairman, the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit has only suffered some torture and abuse. He'll completely recover after a day's rest in the hospital, but a doctor in a white coat hesitated for a moment, but still decided to speak. But according to the tests, the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit's sword marks have all shattered, except for the mark on the Ziying sword. Even the mark on the Ziying sword is on the verge of shattering. With every second that passes, the mark on the Ziying sword is in danger of shattering. Eagle Cat, you've suffered. Hearing that the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit was in such a terrible state, Zhu Wudao and Lu Lei's faces were filled with deep sympathy and sorrow. Once a sword mark shattered, it meant that the sword wielder would never be able to obtain a sword maiden of the same level again. Apart from the mark on the Ziying sword, the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit's other sword marks had all shattered. In other words, the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit's ancient swords, treasured swords, and famed swords would never be able to recover. What was even more terrifying was that once a sword mark shattered, the residue, after shattering, would severely affect the stability of the sword wielder's Violet Palace. It would be more than 10 times more difficult for the sword wielder to synchronize with a new sword maiden. More than 98% of the sword wielder would be stuck at the level of the sword mark for the rest of their lives after their sword mark shattered, unable to advance any further. However, the only fortunate thing was that the sword mark on the Ziying Sword Spirit Sword Maiden had not shattered. As long as the Ziying Sword Spirit's sword mark remained intact, the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit would still be a sword wielder, a true spirit sword wielder. However, it was difficult to keep the Ziying Sword Spirit's sword mark intact. The sword mark was on the verge of shattering, which meant that the Ziying sword itself was also on the verge of shattering. The sword mark and the sword maiden were one, so the sword maiden needed to be protected in order to keep the sword mark. If the Ziying sword was by his side, Yuzhong City would naturally have a way to repair it. After all, the Ziying sword was a man-made sword maiden. It could be forged again at most. However, the Ziying sword was currently missing. According to speculation, the Ziying sword had most likely fallen into Yuan Ko's hands after the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit was captured. It was currently under Yuan Ko's strict supervision, so retrieving the Ziying sword from Yuan Ko's camp would probably be even more difficult than saving the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit. Old man, what do you think we should do? Maybe I should go to the Mei Ling mountain range and see if I can bring the Ziying sword back. Lu Lei said indifferently. He did not seem to take Yuan Ko seriously at all. Don't even think about it. I can't waste you there. Although it's a bit cruel to the Eagle Cat sword, let the Eagle Cat sword be an ordinary person. He has worked hard for Yuzhong City all his life. Let him retire early. Zhu Wudao sighed. Maybe the situation isn't that bad. If the Ziying sword really is in Yuan Ko's hands, then according to their habits, the Ziying sword should have been destroyed by now. They won't let the Eagle Cat Sword Spirit recover. Maybe the Ziying sword isn't in Yuan Ko's hands right now. Lu Lei suddenly put forward a completely different opinion. I hope so. After saying that, Zhu Wudao walked out of the door. The information brought by the scouting team was both good and bad. He had to leave and arrange a meeting. Protecting Yuzhong City was his top priority. Chapter 487. First, cut the streaky pork into bite-sized pieces. Then, rinse them and add a spoonful of cooking wine. Soak them for an hour before draining them. In Song Yifei's kitchen, two beautiful women in aprons were huddled together. It seemed like Song Yifei was teaching Liu Ling how to cook. Add oil to the wok and fry the meat until it's slightly yellow. Add in the dried chili, grass fruits, star anise, ginger, soy sauce, and light soy sauce. Then, add in boiling water and simmer in the clay pot for 2 hours. Song Yifei was very serious in his teaching, and so was Liu Ling. As she watched the braised pork being simmered in the clay pot, Liu Ling rubbed her hands and feet. She was ready to do her part. At that moment, Song Yifei's personal terminal suddenly rang with an ear-piercing alarm. Actually, it was not just Song Yifei. At that moment, about half of the sword wielders in Yuzhong City who were above sword grade had their personal terminals ringing with alarms. Did something happen? Liu Ling looked at Song Yifei, who was listening to a message. There was no alarm on her personal terminal. Song Yifei was stunned and dropped the spatula in his hand. Nothing. Song Yifei took a deep breath and turned around to tell Liu Ling, it's finally Yuzhong City's turn to attack. At the same time, on the hover bike, Gahan was speeding alone. Misaka Makoto was not in Gahan's car. Misaka Makoto's ability had reached an incredible level. She could use electromagnetism to form an anti-gravity magnetic field in her body, allowing her to float in the air like a hover bike. At full speed, Misaka Makoto's speed was a few times faster than a hover bike. At that moment, Misaka Makoto had already gone to Fort Yuyang to scout out the situation. That's right. Gahan did not plan to follow Liu Yanling's decision to return to Yuzhong City through Fujian Province. They had decided to return to Yuzhong City through Fort Yuyang. That was the fastest option. If they took a detour through Fujian Province, they would have to waste an entire day. Most importantly, the main purpose of the trip was to accompany Misaka Mikoto to rescue her friends. The last time Misaka Mikoto saw her friends was at Yiyang Fortress. Misaka Mikoto would not give up until she turned the entire fortress upside down. Although Guhan did not want to go to Fort Yuyang as he wanted to return to Yuzhong City as soon as possible, Misaka Mikoto's opinion came first. Guhan had no choice but to listen to her. Since they were going to rescue their friends from Fort Yuyang, they had to investigate the situation at Fort Yuyang. According to Misaka Mikoto's original plan, she did not want to do any scouting. Instead, she wanted to rush into Fort Yuyang and beat Rocky up. After that, she would force him to release his friends. With Misaka Mikoto's strength as a universe-level guardian, even 2 or 3 universe-level guardians would be no match for her. She could easily take over Fort Yuyang. However, Gahan stopped Misaka Mikoto from doing that. Gahan's reason was simple. If Rocky and Misaka Mikoto's friends were not in Fort Yuyang, they would be alerting the enemy. Even if Misaka Mikoto conquered Fort Yuyang, it would be useless. On the contrary, it would alert Rocky and he would use Misaka Mikoto's friends to threaten Misaka Mikoto. If Gahan was Rocky, Gahan would do the same. Previously, he had used Misaka Mikoto to threaten her friends. Now, he was using her friends to threaten Misaka Mikoto. Things in this world were just that interesting. That was why Gahan asked Misaka Mikoto to investigate Fort Yuyang without exposing herself. He wanted to find out if Rocky was in Fort Yuyang before coming up with a new battle plan. Oh, she's back. Gahan heard a buzzing sound in his ears. Misaka Mikoto had returned after investigating for less than 10 minutes. From her unfriendly expression, it seemed like she did not get a satisfactory result. In the Central Conference Hall of the Swordbearer Service Center. The Central Conference Hall was built like a large theater. Rows of seats were filled with swordbearers who had rushed here after receiving the alert from their gadget. If you looked closely, you would realize that all of these swordbearers were artifact-grade swordbearers. There wasn't even a single ancient-grade swordbearer. There were no fixed seats in the Central Conference Hall. All the swordbearers found their preferred seats. The seats from the 3rd to the 6th row were the most popular. When Song Yifei and Liu Yanling arrived, the seats from the 3rd to the 6th row were already filled with swordbearers. Song Yifei stuck out his tongue in annoyance. He then pulled Liu Yanling to get down from the 7th row. However, when Song Yifei pulled hard, he realized that Liu Yanling was not moving at all. What's wrong? Let's find a seat. Song Yifei turned around and looked at Liu Yanling strangely. She could not understand why she was not moving. Why do we have to go up? Liu Yanling frowned. Why do we have to sit at the back? Fleeting Cold then pointed to the 1st row and said, Yifei, the 1st row is empty. Why don't we sit in the 1st row? Song Yifei's expression was very strange. She didn't know how to answer this question. For her, or for most people, it was a habit to automatically sit in the back row when they entered a classroom, conference room, or any other place with many people. Of course, they didn't really want to sit in the last row. For most people, the middle seat was the best seat. This was especially obvious on a university campus. Except for those strong students, no one would take the initiative to sit in the first 2 rows. After all, it was too inconvenient to read novels in class. This had become a habit of the Chinese. Moderation was almost engraved in their bones. Even after 1,000 years, this had not changed. Therefore, when Liu Yanling suggested sitting in the 1st row, Song Yifei felt strange. She had never taken the initiative to sit in the 1st row before. Although she was reluctant, Song Yifei could not say anything to refute Liu Yanling. This was because she did not want to lose to Liu Yanling. She did not want to lose to Liu Yanling when it came to choosing seats. Therefore, Song Yifei turned around and took the initiative to sit in the 1st row with Liu Yanling. This caused a slight commotion. The other sword bearers were curious as to who had the guts to sit in the first row. As time passed, more and more sword bearers took their seats, filling up the entire central meeting room. A rough estimate put the number of people at around 5,000. This was a huge number. 1/6 of the sword bearers in Yuzhong City were here. However, what made Song Yifei feel strange was that even though she had paid special attention to Ku Rakin's figure, Ku Rakin did not appear until Zhu Wudao appeared on the rostrum. At such an important moment, this teenager, who would be embarrassed if he did not show up, did not appear. Chairman of a Yuzhong City Sword Bearers Committee Standing Meeting, Sword Immortal Zhu Wudao, is here. Deputy Chairman of a Yuzhong City Sword Bearers Committee Standing Meeting, Sword Pavilion Master of Yuzhong City Heavenly Sword Immortal Lu Lei, is here. Standing Member of the Yuzhong City Sword Bearers Committee Standing Meeting, Sword Spirit Shun 1 is here. Standing Member of the Yuzhong City Sword Bearers Committee Standing Meeting, Sword Spirit Mu Shui, is here. Standing Member of the Yuzhong City Sword Bearers Committee Standing Meeting, Sword Spirit Liu, is here. As the host on the stage read out the names of Zhu Wudao, Lu Lei, and a large number of other spirit sword bearers, all the sword bearers stood up in unison and began to applaud and welcome the arrival of these high-level and powerful people of Yuzhong City. This was the first time Song Yifei had seen such a scene. She just stood up and applauded with everyone in a daze. Okay. Zhu Wudao pressed his hand down, indicating that the applause was over. Only then did everyone stop. Play Yuzhong City's city song. According to the usual routine, this kind of meeting with so many sword bearers would have to sing the city song. However, before the host could speak, he was stopped by Zhu Wudao. Okay, you shut up. I'm not going to do these things today, Zhu Wudao said very sternly. The host was a little confused. What was going on? Wasn't it always like this? If there was no need for these procedures, then what was the point of having him as a host? Just sit down and listen to me. Under Zhu Wudao's order, the host could only reluctantly sit down on the stage. On the stage, there were only Zhu Wudao, Lu Lei, and other spirit sword bearers sitting on the stage. At this time, besides Zhu Wudao and Lu Lei, the two immortal sword bearers, there were 12 spirit sword bearers sitting on the stage. There were a total of 23 spirit sword bearers in the entire Yuzhong City, which was equivalent to half of the high-level power of Yuzhong City gathered here. What was going on? Why were there so many sword bearers gathered here? Could it be that the Yuan Xing is about to attack us? All the sword bearers who participated in the meeting were confused, but they had a vague feeling that some of them might not have the chance to come to this meeting room again. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.